Rhonda. Karen's on.
Hey, y'all. Hey, Karen. Been a long time.
Hey, I miss you.
Hopefully, so we're going to give a little bit of time for, I'm waiting on our parliamentarian, Richard Hayes, to join us. But I think that we have all 10 committee members. 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait a minute. I'm missing somebody. Amy, Terry, Rhonda.
Mark Reed.
Vergel. Yeah, I don't see Mark Reed. That's who's missing. Okay. Okay. So if we could give it just stand at ease for another couple of minutes, we are being live streamed on YouTube. So as soon as I get Richard on here, we will start. So just, oh, there's Richard. Hey, Richard. Okay, Richard's parliamentarian. All right, so I am calling, for lack of a better word, I'm calling this the Committee of 10. I don't know how else to do it. This is a reconvening. We are to, according to the motion that was passed, we are to advise the chairman, give him recommendations on a date, time, and place for a reconvening of the state convention for purposes of the platform and the rules. It also does say that we can advise him on any other details that we deem appropriate. I know that the chairman would like to get this taken care of as quickly as possible so that we are not leaving the delegates hanging out there for a long length of time. And we are, sorry, somebody's texting me. And so the primary function of this is to get a date, a time, and a location. That is the only agenda item that we have today. I would ask that since we are under convention rules, that somebody would move to limit debate. So, oh, let me announce this first. Virgil Cruz, would you please be the secretary for this committee?
I will gladly do that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, having done that, Richard Hayes will be parliamentarian. He will be helping us through this meeting. So is there, the chair would entertain a motion to limit debate from, not from the committee itself, but from anyone who joins us that would like to testify.
It's Terry Holcomb, so moved.
Terry, thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Amy seconds it. So Terry, do you have limits? What limits would you like to place?
3 minutes.
3 minutes for each testimony, for each person speaking? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Is there any discussion? Rhonda Lacy, you have your hand up.
Well, that's for another motion, so I'll wait.
Okay. All right. Is there any discussion on limiting debate? Yes, Amy?
I'll just add that I really encourage the committee to be as patient as possible and let as many people testify and share the info they have. I know we're all under the gun and under a lot of stress, but the more committee and convention input we get, that would be great.
Perfect. All right. All right. Hearing no other discussion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have an amendment.
Okay. An amendment, Virgil?
I would move that we reduce it to 2 minutes. I found that, well, I'll speak to it if there's a second.
Okay, there's been an amendment to reduce the time limit of other participants to speak for 2 minutes. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
You'll second? Okay, Amy seconds. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Mark Ramsey, I see your hand up.
It's for a separate motion.
It's for a separate motion. Okay. Let me make sure nobody.
Madam Chair, I'll speak to my motion if I may.
Okay, go for it, Virgil.
2 minutes is a long time. We found it was sufficient in rules for most people, so I think we should keep it short.
Okay. Anybody to speak against? Okay. Hearing none. Is everyone ready for the question on the amendment to have 2 minutes limit for anyone outside of the committee to testify? All in favor, please use the green yes button. All opposed, the no button.
Madam Chair, if I take my hand down, can I put it back?
Okay, just if you could put
I'm
your
for this.
chat. Okay. All right. So you're
Yes.
for it. And
I
there
am.
are no opposition. So the motion is, the amendment to the motion is approved. We are now on to the original motion, which is, and I'm being advised that limiting debate is not debatable. The original motion as amended is to limit outside participants of the committee to 2 minutes. All in favor, please click the green yes button. All opposed, the no button. And I see that, okay, there are no opposition. It's all yes. And Rhonda Lacy, I will have you as a yes. Yes, ma'am. All right, thank you.
No, ma'am,
So
I'm opposed.
You're
I'm
opposed to
outside.
time limits?
I'm opposed
Okay.
to outside.
Being
I'm
able
opposed to outside. Yes.
Okay. Yes. And I, if you will give me 1 second, I need to respond to somebody. Okay. So it still passes. We have 9 yeses. Looks like 1, 2. Oh, we have two no's. So it'd be 8 yeses and 2 negatives. Okay, so we will limit debate to outside participants. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but Rule 14 states that because we are a convention committee constituted by the convention, we fall under convention rules, which does allow for outside testimony. So it's not a matter of if they can, it is a matter of how long they can. So just, and I am seeing a message. Mark is interested in addressing the committee about tech group discussions. Okay. All right. When that is, when that comes up, Amy, I will be happy to call on him, or you can call on him. He is on this call. Yes, Amy.
I was going to say, have we shared with the delegates how they can approach this committee? And maybe a time that they can start approaching the committee?
Let me check with the parliamentarian, because I'm not exactly sure how to accomplish that, since I just found out maybe 15, 20 minutes ago that we actually were under the convention rules. So if you'll give me a minute, stand at ease.
Hey, Josh, you don't have blue curtains behind you.
Sorry about that, guys. This has been a quite an unusual circumstance. So here's how I think that we are going to handle this. This is, y'all got short notice. We got short notice. And if any of you know of people that would like to testify to the committee, please share with them the Zoom link and let them come on. I am inclined to say that we need to discuss for probably at least 30 minutes before we allow any testimony from outside the committee. Does anybody have an objection with that?
Object.
Okay, Mark Ramsey, you're recognized.
Yeah, I think actually that, and I have a motion to this effect. I think it's actually better that we hear the testimony first and then finish our work after that. We could conceivably finish our work without hearing any testimony. I'm not sure that would be fair to anybody. And so I think we should hear the testimony first. I have a motion if we're finished discussing this too.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I had a motion before he did. So point of information, and then.
Oh, yes. Rhonda was ahead of me on the motion.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Rhonda, you are recognized.
Thank you. And so maybe I'll ask this as a point of information because it may be a moot point afterwards, but I didn't know if there would be a point in time we could go into executive session, but it's looking like we may not be able to, but is that appropriate? And if so, I would like to move that we do so.
I have been advised by the parliamentarian that there is no executive sessions allowed for a convention committee. Okay. So that is not appropriate, but I do appreciate, yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mark, Mr. Ramsey, you are recognized.
Yes, Madam Chairman. I would move that we allow 30 minutes for testimony. That would finish up at 1:41. Let's call it 1:45 to round it up a little bit. And that at that point, regardless of how many people may be waiting in line, we wrap up any external testimony.
Okay, we have a motion to limit testimony from now until 1:45.
Correct. Time certain, end of public testimony, I suppose.
Time certain. Okay. Who seconded?
Mark Reed.
Mark Reed. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to take testimony from now until 1:45. From others, we have a second. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Terry Holcomb. I'm just going to speak in opposition to this motion. I don't think we should limit this to this time frame. There hasn't been near enough notice for the delegates to even have a fair shot at doing this. And I mean, I'm not even sure if we're trying to wrap this up in one meeting or if we could possibly do it in two. But as this motion stands right now, I'm going to oppose it just for the sheer reason that there's no way anyone's getting enough notice to be able to actually come speak in the next 30 minutes. I just find that completely unreasonable.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Holcomb. Ms. Hedke, you're recognized.
I have to agree with Terry. Delegates haven't even been told how to access this meeting or that they can speak. I would really like to, if nothing else, I think a second meeting would be great just for delegate testimony on this. But, you know, giving them a 30-minute notice and then saying you've only got 30 minutes is kind of mean.
Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to take this in order. Rhonda Lacy, you're recognized. Miss Lacy?
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman. I should have taken my hand down.
Okay, thank you. Miss Newton, you're recognized.
Hi, I'd like to speak for, I think we need to
You're gone.
go
Okay.
with what the chairman answered. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, sorry, I'm driving, y'all. I'll be done driving in like 10 minutes. I think we need to wrap this up as quickly as possible, as per the request of Chairman West. And we could go on and on and on. If we want to get lots of testimony from delegates, I think Mark's motion to make this swift and efficient.
Okay, you've broken up again, Miss Newton. The gist of your testimony, I am assuming, is that we need to make it quick. You are in favor of Mr. Ramsey's motion.
It's the right move. Or we're going to be stuck debating back and forth hours on this, and that's not what the chairman wants.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Huls, you are recognized.
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. I believe that we should have a time limit for debate on this before this committee. However, I do agree with Terry that having a 30-minute debate and just letting people know now that get here or not is an unreasonable expectation for interested parties who care deeply about this matter to get here in time to give a testimony if they can. So I would be more in favor of not 30 minutes, but maybe open it up for an hour later. And it's just not a motion yet. I'm just speaking for it, but speaking against it. But I think that we should have some sort of notice go out that would allow folks to assemble and come here and give their testimony.
Thank you. Is there any other, to see, Mr. Holcomb, are you still speaking to the same motion you've spoken once against?
No, ma'am, I'm moving to amend.
Okay, we have a motion to amend.
Yep, I would move to amend that we allot a 2-hour notice to the delegates to come and testify to us in 2 hours, and that we send out an email of communication through the Republican Party of Texas to the delegates.
2 hours notice? Would it still be the 30-minute time frame for them to, okay, yes, that would be yes. All right, do I have a second? Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Who said that?
I'm sorry, Dale Huls.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I'm still trying to, I believe this would fall under standing rules, not limiting debate. So I am going to allow this. So,
point of information, Madam Chair.
Yes.
This 2-hour time period, when does that take place? And when would we then again meet again? Because I'm giving a shower for a friend in a couple of hours, so I can't come back.
I completely understand. I will figure this out. Just hold just a minute. Mark Ramsey, you're recognized.
Yes, Madam Chairman, members, I'm going to respectfully vote against this amendment by Mr. Holcomb. This would actually be an undue burden, I think, on the party. And maybe more importantly, this is even more notice than we gave for temporary and permanent committees at the convention, even the in-person ones. Those were very much ad hoc. We simply announced, in some cases, from the committee chairs or from the committee sub-chairs when we were going to be taking testimony. There was no notice. I don't believe we have any actual notice requirement in our rules. I think most of us are trying to finish this up so we could get finished very quickly today. This would imply at least a second meeting tonight or tomorrow. I don't think any of that's necessary.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Huls, you were next.
Yes, thank you. Well, I mean, when it goes, speaking to Mark's point, you know, those committee meetings were very well choreographed in advance. People knew what the expectation were. We are in uncharted ground here. We have never done anything near like this. You're right. I get emails from people volunteering their services, asking what's going on. And there's up until, and sorry, I was on the road all day yesterday and most of this morning trying to get to Florida, but people don't know what's going on. They're unaware that they have an opportunity to even come testify. So even the little bit of a 2-hour delay to try to let folks know, I do not find unreasonable. If the purpose of this committee is simply to come in here and slam the door shut on a recommendation without due diligence in the debate, I don't know that that is what we should be doing. Thank you.
Okay. And just FYI, before we go forward, I am putting members, since we have so many people in this Zoom meeting, so that I can easily see who is and who is not a member when we vote. So give me 1 second. Brandon, if you are still on, if you could help me with this, I would appreciate it. You may not know who all is. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay. So, Rhonda, did you mean to have your hand up still?
Yes, ma'am. I want to speak. I agree with Mark Ramsey at this point in time. I've just been inundated with calls and texts when our meeting today is occurring. And I think those who've really wanted to know when it is. And we've been letting some of those get on even right now. So I think the 30-minute time is sufficient for today.
Okay, and just to reiterate, this is not a motion on limiting debate. This is standing rules for how our committee is going to operate. So I do believe that discussion and debate is allowable here. All right, Ron, if you could lower your hand. Let's see, I'm not sure whether it's
Madam Chairman, I think technically Terry moved to amend my motion.
Yes. So the motion is 2 hours notice, and then we take 30 minutes. So that's what the debate is at this current time. Is there any other discussion on that? Amy.
I have a point of information.
Okay.
Point of inquiry, excuse me.
Okay.
When we have this committee meeting, is there a requirement for a notification that this meeting is going to be held?
It is my understanding that there is not, because we are an ad hoc committee. Richard, would you mind unmuting yourself and speaking to that, please?
In reviewing the rules for all conventions, I'm not seeing any required minimum notice of any committee meetings, subcommittee, special committee, select committee, ad hoc committee. And so there's no specific rule that says you have to have 2 hours notice, 3 days notice. So it's up to the desire of the committee.
Thank you. Okay, Amy, you are recognized.
I'm going to echo what Dale said. I understand that even in an in-person convention, we have a lot of committees just throwing out, immediate time for people to speak, but that has been a problem in the past. And it would be really nice if we could make sure that we don't just keep doing the same things we've been doing, and that we make a positive step forward and actually work on notifying delegates. They're the ones who made the decision to stop this, and we need to give them that time for input. Give them the respect of letting them know they can speak too.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other debate on the amendment to the motion, which would be to give a 2 hour notice? I will say this, I'm not quite sure that staff could get this 2 hour notice out, but I will certainly reach out to them. Is there any more debate on the 2 hour notice and then allowing 30 minutes, Mr. Holcomb's message? All right, seeing none, are you ready for the vote? All in favor of giving a 2 hour notice to the delegates to allow them time to get on and testify, please signify by saying, pushing the yes button. All opposed, please push the no button. Sorry, I'm trying to look through here. Okay, so it is 5-4 in favor of this amendment. So the amendment moving forward.
Are you voting, Madam Chairman?
I typically don't, but Mr. Parliamentarian, Mr. Hayes, do I have the ability to vote on this?
You do. And the rule under Roberts, when you're in small committees, and their small committees defined as about 12 or less, The chairman has the right to make motions, to debate, and to vote.
Okay, if I vote, it makes it a tie. What happens then?
Well, a tie vote is a losing vote. The only exception to that is on the appeal for the decision of the chair. And then the tie vote goes in the benefit of the chair.
Okay, if y'all could stand at ease for just a moment while I check with staff to see if it is even possible for them to get out this 2 hour, because they're not in the office today. So please stand at ease for about 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, I didn't even get a hold of staff, so that would inform me that it would be very difficult for them to get this out. So therefore my vote is no, making it a tie vote. The motion fails. We go back to Mark Ramsey's original, which I think the intent was 30 minutes. So without objection, it would be moved to 2 o'clock. Mr. Ramsey, is that okay? He is saying, he is affirming that. So his is a 30-minute testimony time, ending at 2 o'clock. Is there discussion on this? I'm not seeing any discussion. So is we have Amy Hedke first. Amy, you're recognized.
I'd like to move to amend that to 1 hour, because at 2 minutes, that basically lets 15 people talk.
Okay. The motion is to amend that to 1 hour from 30 minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Terry Holcomb. Is there discussion? Amy, you want to speak to your amendment?
I think we've already seen in the waiting room already. We've got a lot of people that want to talk about this, and we have, that's a very tiny cross section of the delegates who wanted to see changes in this convention. And I think we owe it to them to let them speak.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Glover, did you want to speak in favor or opposition?
To Ms. Heidke's amendment, I will actually speak in opposition. While I really think it's important to give delegates as much freedom to talk to us as possible, at the same time, we are operating within a very small window of time. And I know the chairman has asked us to do this as quickly and expeditiously as possible. I had hoped that perhaps staff would have time, but since they don't, I think that everyone who is really interested in speaking to this motion is probably already on this call now. So I would propose going ahead with the 30 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Ramsey, are you speaking in favor or against? Mr. Ramsey? Mr. Ramsey.
There we go. There we go. I was muted. Sorry. Yeah, I'll be speaking against this. We've already had much public testimony on the actual issues at hand. We've got a November election staring us in the face. We need to get focused on the November election. We have absolutely zero indication that even if we had 100 people on this call waiting to testify, that they would in any way whatsoever be representative of the 4,000 delegates that were participating, or even more that were registered. Last point is no disrespect to the delegates, but I seriously doubt that most of those listening understand the issues and the scheduling issues and the various rules and bylaws that we are dealing with today. So I suggest that we we minimize the testimony and we get on about our business. Let the party get on about November.
Thank you. Is there any other debate? All right. Hearing none, are you ready to call the question for 30 minutes, testimony ending at 2:00 p.m.? Voting is open. Yes means that you are in favor of that. No means you are not. Oops, hang on, mine's up. There we go. All right, voting is open.
Madam Chairman, could you please clarify exactly what we're voting on? Is it
you are voting on Mark's original motion that testimony.
Amy, you got Amy's amendment.
Oh, I'm so sorry. The our amendment. Thank you, Terry. Sorry, Amy. So we are voting, I'm sorry, on Amy's amendment to move the testimony from 30 minutes to 1 hour to allow for testimony. Yes.
The motion is to amend the motion by striking 30 minutes and inserting 1 hour.
Thank
So
you.
if you vote yes, you're voting to strike 30 minutes and insert 1 hour. If you vote no, you want to keep it at 30 minutes.
Thank you for the clarification. Is everybody clear on what you're voting on? Yes would make it 1 hour. So if you were in favor of making it 1 hour, vote yes. Use the yes button. If you are in favor of keeping it, of not amending this motion that has not passed yet, would you please vote no? So voting is open now. I am not seeing any votes at all. Maybe y'all are at the bottom. There we go. Okay, it is 5-5. Motion fails. We're back to we are back to the 30-minute Mark Ramsey's original testimony. I'm gonna clear all of this, maybe if I can figure out how. That's not letting me do it. There it is, clear all.
Madam Chairman, can I amend my motion?
Mark Ramsey, yes, Mr. Ramsey.
Just in the interest of getting this committee going, I'd like to amend the motion to allow for 45 minutes instead of 10 minutes.
Okay, so we, for 45 minutes. Is there debate on 45 minutes? Mr. Ramsey has changed his original motion.
I'll second it.
Who was that? I'm sorry.
Vergel.
Vergel, there's a motion and a second to amend to 45 minutes. Is there any debate?
Madam Chair.
Just a minute, Mr. Holcomb, we have a hand up. Ms. Newton.
Hi, I think it's great that Mark is compromising and going with 45 minutes, and good job, Mark.
Okay, Mr. Holcomb.
Madam Chair, I believe that's a reasonable compromise, so I would certainly support Mark's amendment. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Ms. Hedke.
I'll take every minute I can get. Thank you, Mark.
Okay. It sounds like we kind of have a consensus. So no, I'm not going to do that. If you are in favor of this, please check the yes button. It would allow testimony for 45 minutes. And voting is open now. Okay. It looks like it passes with 1 no vote. So we will accept 45 minutes of.
Madam Chairman, we need to make sure that non-committee members are not voting. We had at least one that I saw that was voting.
Oh, I didn't look. Okay. I need, Vergel, could you please help me keep track of that? I can't, I'm having a hard time with all of these people.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay. So
has everyone renamed, have all the members renamed themselves member COT?
Hang on just a second. Let me rename mine.
Okay. What are we renaming it to? Oh, member, it's on there.
Member COT. Put COT on there, Terry, if you don't mind. I think I just put member on everybody else's.
If we change it to just COT, it'll pop it up to the top.
Okay, Brandon, I believe that you're on here. Could you rename the members that have member COT to just COT, please? And it doesn't necessarily just put it to the top, but we're close.
Closer, yeah.
Since it's a special committee or select or an ad hoc committee, just make it a COT.
Hey, good idea.
Couldn't you just make all the committee members panelists?
I just muted myself. If you will give me a minute, please, Sanity. Okay. I'm trying to remember where we were. We are at Mark Ramsey allowing testimony for 45 minutes. So Vergel, could you please help me check for the votes, as well as Brandon? I believe that you are on here as well.
Madam Chair, Vergel, are we re-verifying the vote on the Ramsey amendment? Is that correct?
You know what? That's a good point.
Because I think you had said there was only one no, but
yeah, there was only one no, so that passes. Thank you for reminding me of that. Passed. So that means that we will take testimony in order, starting now for 45 minutes. The end time will be, let's see, 1:15, 1:19.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
My apologies for being a stickler, but do we need to vote on the motion as amended?
You know what? I thought that we had, but yes. So the original motion is back on the table. Mark Ramsey is to allow testimony for 45 minutes. I think we probably debated it enough. Hopefully, I see no hands. So are you ready for the vote? Okay, all in favor, please click the green yes button. All right, I see no opposed, so it passes unanimously. Okay, so we will take testimony until we're actually going to round it up to 1:20. I will take in order. Those wishing to testify, please raise your hand. You are limited to 2 minutes. Mr. Hayes, can you please keep a timer for 2 minutes for each person?
Rick Briscoe, SD25 here. I'm on mobile.
Okay, I have hands up, and I can appreciate that. I will call you in just a second. What was your first name, Rick?
Yes.
And what was your last name?
Briscoe, B-R-I-S-C-O-E.
Okay, Mr. Briscoe, you will be third in line.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Eastland, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. More than 2 weeks ago, I called people in Fort Worth. I talked to Jungus Jordan, who is a Republican member of the city council there. I also talked with a lady at the convention center. Once it was clear that the convention was going to go forward the way it was, I didn't follow up on that until this week, and I've talked to them again. I'm waiting on them to come up with, days and days when the convention center would be available, and also when there would be hotels available. I gave them just a ballpark idea of how many people we might expect, but I have been asking questions about what the actual registration for this convention was and what the actual kind of peak attendance was, so that we could have an informed decision about how many people we might think will come, which has everything to do with, you know, finding a facility that's big enough and a location and all of this stuff. I'm in progress. I expect to hear back from them on Monday. This may be too late for you all, but I want to make an argument that I think that the continued convention, because that's what this is. Richard may correct me, but I believe that the motion that was passed was in the form of a fix the time to which to adjourn motion, and this will be another session of the convention when we reconvene. That we have this after the election. I've talked to a couple of state legislators here locally. They're very worried. They want us to get cranked up and highly organized in our county. And I think we should be doing it in every other urban county and also in the rural counties as well. I think we need to focus on the election. The stuff we have left to do doesn't have to be done now. We can do it after the election in November or December. That gives us more time to plan, also more time to raise the money to pay for it, because it's going to be costly no matter where we go or what we do. But Fort Worth wants us. They are very interested in having us come. They've always been friendly in the past, and the politicians here are all Republicans.
Thank you, Mr. Eastland. Mr. Stutz, you are recognized.
Can you hear me?
I can.
All right, thank you. I do want to encourage y'all to go with a in-person convention. I don't think anybody wants to try a virtual one again. Bill Eastland brought up something interesting, waiting to have it until after the election. That is an interesting proposition. I do worry, though, about trying to get a quorum. If you wait that long, are people going to be still interested? And especially right after the election, when everybody's sick and tired of politics, that's a question y'all should mull over. As someone who sat in on the rules committee the whole time and was getting ready for a floor fight virtually for rules, I do want to see both rules and platform be handled with enough time for everyone to, air out all their grievances and debate all the stuff they want to debate. And so I do encourage that whatever you do is in person. And I mean, if y'all do go with virtual, we need to have something rock solid, ready to go, where people can be credentialed reliably and get in and use the software reliably. I know it would be easier to get a quorum with a virtual convention. That's just a given. But I do want to state my preference as in person. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Stutz. Mr. Briscoe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I realize everyone would much prefer the interpersonal action of an in-person convention, but at this stage it's impractical and there's really no particular business remaining to be accomplished, which furthers our effort in November. Instead, I suggest we specifically ratify the selection of the presidential electors at a virtual meeting of the convention, that we adopt the 2018 platform as a single motion, and then get back to the business of winning elections.
All right, that was short and sweet. Thank you so much. Next on the list is, I may be pronouncing this incorrectly, Lou Larada.
That's pretty close, Mr. Chairman. It's Louis Larada from Senate District 15. Thank you for allowing us to speak. I also feel similarly to some of the previous testimonies. I do feel that as important as the convention is, we have to keep in mind the current situation that we had recently with the platforms. Oh, can you hear me? Are we there?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Just wanted to reemphasize that the issues we had with the software could continue. So I'm kind of discouraged to think that we could do another virtual convention. That's at this point, we do need to move forward towards November. So I would suggest either we adopt 2018 rules and platform, or we postpone until after the November election. That way, everyone has an opportunity to jump in. And there were a lot of issues that got left out of the platform, particularly to our caucus, relating to criminal justice, which we had made a lot of progress. And now we see our platform reverting to 2008. So we want to move forward in the Republican Party, and it's important that we are representative of the entire delegation whenever possible. So I would either suggest we adopt 2018's platform and rules, or postpone a convention sometime after November. I understand there might be some burnout, but the people that have spent time traveling to Houston and participating in these conventions, I think they'll understand and they'll want to be a part of that conversation as well.
Thank you so much. Nicole Tarpley?
Yes,
You're welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Nicole Tarpley. I'm a Panola County. And from what I'm hearing from my delegates is that they want to get something done sooner than later because they're ready to get this done. As we saw in Houston, that the more we waited, the more we got to a point where we could not get it done in person. And I think that we won't know what's going to go on in November, what's going to go on with the state, what's going to go on with individual areas. We're in too much disarray at this point. And I think if we get it done sooner than later, like in August or something, but even before the national convention, we might be able to keep our delegation. I also think that people have already asked off for a vacation, and doing so later would be a little bit more difficult, and possibly virtual has already been set. And as far as I know, as the way you do it in the beginning is the way you have to complete it. I know it's a separate secondary type convention, but we haven't technically adjourned fully. So my recommendation would be do it sooner than later, stay with what we already know. I think we're going to lose a lot of delegation. We've already lost some of it. You're always going to lose delegation on the last day. And I think that if it approximately, maybe about 40% would drop off if it were in person. We've already got our credentials. I think we can move forward and get it done as quickly as possible so we can get to the November election and get our Republicans in office.
Thank you, Ms. Tarpley. Okay, Mr. Westbrook, you are recognized. Mr. Westbrook? I see your hand up. I see your thing. You are muted. Let me try and unmute you. Maybe. It's not unmuting on my side. All right, Mr. Westbrook, I will probably come back to you since I am not hearing you.
I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Okay. All right, Mr. Westbrook, you are
stepped away for just a second.
I'm sorry?
I had stepped away from my computer for just a second. David Westbrook, SD26, CD20, and member of the platform committee in 2020 and 2018 for that matter. I would just like to speak to something I haven't heard discussed much, and I've been pushing this. I can't speak for my district, but what I can speak from is a point of technology, and I think y'all should seriously consider looking at some sort of multi-site distributed convention as opposed to everybody meeting in a single place. The technology to provide real-time video links is all there. It's all available. And it would really make participation and help to diminish any kind of potential disenfranchisement of the delegates, because I can't afford to go to another in-person convention somewhere, not even for a couple of days right now. I don't have the vacation time and I don't have the money to do it again. And so if you have another in-person, you're going to disenfranchise a bunch of people that would otherwise be able to attend. The distributed in-person also gives you the best opportunity for participation and eliminates a lot of the problems that people talked about with disenfranchisement with the virtual stuff. So please give it a real serious consideration.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Westbrook. All right, Summer Wise, you were recognized.
Hi there, everyone. This is your friendly credentials chair just chiming in. I wanted to just encourage you all to be sure to keep the credentials committee in the loop this time and keep them in the loop end to end. So from validating and verifying delegate credentials and that everyone is eligible to be a delegate, all the way to distributing those credentials and passing them out. We need to be involved. I think we saw that that was lacking last time, that oversight. And I'm here to tell you that I am ready to support you this time and make sure that that our committee is involved.
Thank you, Ms. Wise, and thank you for your work on that. I know that that was a Herculean and frustrating effort. So thank you for everything that you did.
Of course, thank you.
Yes. All right. I don't know whose Craig's iPhone is. Could you please state your first and last name?
Absolutely. Craig Liccardi, Senate District 1, Congressional District 1. I'm absolutely in favor of an in-person convention. If we're going to finish this thing out, I think the technology, we've already seen that the technology is just, we're not there yet. In order to be able to have the kind of integrity and election, in order to make it all work, we're just not there yet. And so while I like the idea of a distributed convention like the previous man had mentioned, we tried that up here, and in the midst of everything, it just didn't work. There were problems with audio. People couldn't raise their hand and get in. And so either we do it in person, or I kind of leaning towards the other gentleman, a few folks back, that if we were to just adopt the 2018 rules and platform, certify our electors, and then move on to win November and pick this back up in 2022. That might be an option.
And you're talking about 2018 platform and rules. Is that what you're saying, advocating for?
Correct.
Okay.
Because at this moment, we're not actually operating under any rules. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants, I think. If I remember if I watched everything correct, I was on the rules committee, and I know the SRAC had made some changes 2 or 3 times by emergency vote. And so I'm not sure which one of those we're actually operating under.
Just to address the gentleman's question, my understanding is that since the body has not adopted new rules, we are still, we did not adjourn sine die, so we are still operating under the 2018 platform and rules. So,
okay.
If I'm wrong about that, Richard can jump in there, but that is my understanding. So
sure.
That and $1.50 will get you a cheap cup of coffee. So,
right. We're all
okay.
All new territory here. Thank
yes,
you.
we are. And I appreciate everybody's patience. All right, Mr. Eade, you are recognized.
Justin Eade, Senate District 8, Collin County.
Hi.
I'm working with the tech team on some of the credentialing process, and there's about 1,000 delegates that were not able to get any sort of credentials, any code sent to them to access Meeting Pulse. I'm hearing that there's about 2,000 missing phone numbers, bad email addresses. So any kind of notion of using a virtual convention again, that pretty much seems to be off the table. We don't have any viable way to verify all of this in the coming weeks. And then we have, apparently there's news that Meeting Pulse is, I've heard this rumor or something, they're matching their employees $1,000. Up to $1,000 if they donate to Black Lives Matter, which in turn is money being funneled into the Biden campaign. So clearly we can't reuse Meeting Pulse. Like we've already essentially funded Meeting Pulse and funded Black Lives Matter indirectly to that.
Meeting Pulse because they support Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please mute yourself if you're not recognized. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. And so essentially, I think we need to do an in-person convention. It's the most reliable means. We've done it many years in the past. I think we need to continue, whether it's distributed or not. Not really sure what would be the best approach, but I think we need to do in person if there's any kind of voting, or even if we were to use a voting app, if we handed out printed codes, at least everyone's going through in person, going through a desk, they register, they make sure their credentials are in order, and we can hand out a code there if need be. or we vote the old traditional way. Either way, we can make sure that any delegates are properly enfranchised if we do it in person. We can't do that virtually.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right. I appreciate your input. Thank you so much. Where am I at? Sorry. Mark Perez. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, I can. So you are recognized to speak.
Okay, let me see if I can. Share my screen here. I am a delegate, and I do agree. I do agree with the sentiment that we have an in-person convention definitely hedges us against the most technical risk. But we've kind of, as a result of all this, we created a little group called Red Summit, which is basically a whole bunch of software geeky, gearhead, tech folks from within the delegate pool. There's about 10 or 12 of us right now. Justin's one of them on the team, and we've been reviewing various options. I had put a slide together for you here, but I can't share my screen. But essentially, the three options that appear to be on the table right now is an in-person option, which we feel, obviously, whether that's a deferred in-person option or immediate, it definitely is the safest option against hedging technical risk because it relies on existing processes. An entirely virtual convention would require the selection and testing of a new credentialing and or voting system. We've been looking at a couple different internal code options, one from Rick Morgan, some open source options, which we have in review right now, and a couple different cloud-based offerings. Our eventual goal is to develop a full turnkey Republican-centric platform for doing this, as well as for campaign execution and voter engagement. But that's a multi-year process, a multi-year plan. But when this whole second convention thing happened, people were like, hey, would you guys be willing to at least review or provide recommendations on that? And so we want to be able to be at your service to do that. We're not, not from the perspective of what the decision is, but just making sure that you guys have the best information to make it.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sorry, I've got people texting me. Mr. Whitaker, ST30. You're recognized. I don't know where you are, but.
All right.
You there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
I can.
So I am in favor of an in-person convention, and if we have to do it out in a field somewhere, that's completely fine with me, just doing the bug spray. So we all know what we know about the previous convention, and that's no lie. But what it comes down to is that we can either sit here and struggle and really try to make it work, or we can meet up together and do what Republicans need to do, and that's get down to party business. So if that's the case, then we need to get serious. And if it makes you uncomfortable, then that's exactly what the situation we need to be in. It's a lot easier to sit here from air-conditioned rooms and complain, but if we could all just meet up together and work this out, I think would be a lot better off. Now, I'm not saying that ultimately we need to go to some open field somewhere, but at the end of the day, if that's what it takes, I'm willing to do that. And I think a lot of people should be able to too. And if we're all worried about communication and things like that, we really need to start focusing on getting our SREC members and our county chairs really involved in this process to notify people, to get them back involved, to bring them back into the fold, because they still have elected business to do, because you are not discharged from your duty as a delegate until this convention's over. And ladies and gentlemen, this convention's not over yet. We have to make this lady sing. So if that's the case, let's give her a song.
Thank you so much, Mr. Whitaker. All right, Mr. Sean Ricker, you are recognized.
All right, Madam Chairwoman, thank you for recognizing me. Can y'all hear me good? It's kind of noisy here.
Yes, we can. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll make it brief because it is noisy. I'd like to speak to an in-person convention. I appreciate the idea, and I mean of a distributed in-person, like Mr. Westbrook suggesting and others have suggested. But I think the issue we run into there is you still have to work out. You still have to work out credentials, almost the same as if it was a virtual convention. People will still need their individual ways to vote and take part. So I think some of the same hurdles remain. I understand the concern about going to a second convention in person and some of the hurdles that can present. And I'd also suggest the earlier the better. I think the risk of any of our convention being called into question is low, but even with a low risk of wanting to make sure we're able to send our delegation to vote in November, I think is pretty critical. So the sooner the better. I think in-person removes a lot of those hurdles. And as a side note, I still like the idea of proceeding. I mean, it's outside the committee, I get it, but proceeding with technology options. This type, I mean, that's the way of the future. It's the way, you know, we can go. We can make in-person future conventions more streamlined on voting and things like that, or deal with potential pandemics in the future. But I just don't see us being able to work out those details in the timeline we need for this in-person convention or distributed to happen. So that's all I have to say. I appreciate y'all's time, and I appreciate your effort on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up here. Miss Glenn, you are recognized. Hannah Glenn?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for the work you're doing. I'm going to do this real quick because I know a lot of people have spoken in favor of an in-person. I'm in favor of that as well, but for a slightly different reason. I don't think that we can responsibly have any kind of a convention virtually, just because of the logistics of individuals being able to make motions, being able to raise points of order, raise points of information. The reality is, no matter what technology you use, people are still going to be waiting in an online queue with hands raised. Whereas if we're in person, I can go up and tap somebody on the shoulder and say, hey, what are you going to raise a point of order on this? And they can say yes, and I can go sit back down, rather than us having 100 people in the queue. And meanwhile, there's people raising points of order or something, and I'm sitting here and I had something more timely. Basically, I can sit here and I can raise something, and by the time I'm gotten to, it's 2 hours later. So it's actually, I think it would be actually wrong and a disservice to the delegates to do anything but an in-person, just for the reasons of being able to adhere to Robert's rules. I don't think there's any way to do it without in-person. So that's it. Thank you guys.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. All right, Mr. Lutz, you are up. William Lutz.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Can you hear me?
I can.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is William Lutz, Senate District 14. I was a member of the Platform and Resolutions Committee, or am a member of the Platform and Resolutions Committee. First, we worked very hard on the 2020 platform. Please don't throw it out. There's a lot of good work in there that address issues that have come up within the last 2 years. Secondly, I wanted to throw out an idea for your consideration. If we are going to have convention part 2 after the election, because I know a lot of people want to concentrate on November, how about the first or second week in January and combine it with lobby activities around our legislative priorities and our platform? Whether we do it in the districts for cost reasons, or whether we do it in Austin, maybe right before session or right during the first couple weeks of session would be a good time to talk about all the important legislative issues that we have in our platform. And we could also work on encouraging legislators to pass our legislative priorities. Thirdly, if you do decide to go with something, we could have a Zoom discussion for the 25 minutes on each section of the platform that's required by the convention rules, and then have a separate balloting system. Maybe we post a Scantron to the website or email it to the delegates, and they could mail it in so that people who didn't get their credentials had a way to vote in light of all the credentialing issues. But what we might want to do is have a rather than actually try to hash this out in a Zoom meeting, which have had a lot of challenges when you deal with thousands of people, allow debate over Zoom, but when it comes time to vote, have some sort of separate ballot system, which is required under the rules anyway on platform because of plank by plank voting. Madam Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to testify. Thank you for all the great service on the members of this committee. And I know you have some hard and less than ideal decisions to make, and I really appreciate everything you're doing, Madam Chairman.
Thank you so much. All right, we have an iPhone guest, which I have no idea who that is. Please identify your first and last name with your Senate district. All right.
Madam Chairman, can you hear me?
I can.
Madam Chairman, fellow delegates and committee members, this is Angela Jolene Surratt. I apologize. We're actually on the road from Houston back to El Paso, and my iPad wasn't cooperating with me, so I'm Senate District 29, Congressional District 23, El Paso County, and I would just like to testify we are actually probably the furthest from most of the people who are participating in this. We're actually closer to LA than we are to Houston. And I would like to just reiterate that I really feel strongly that an in-person convention is really the only way to go. I know that there were so many people within our own Senate and congressional districts who were disenfranchised. They never received their credentials. And unfortunately, it caused a huge, huge issue. And I didn't receive mine until late Saturday night. And so I wasn't even able to participate in my congressional caucus. I feel like with the issues that we had, anything that we do virtual is either going to deter people from wanting to participate because they already felt so disenfranchised the first time, or we're going to have further issues. And so I would just respectfully, as someone literally on the opposite side of the state, I really do feel like an in-person convention, to finish this out in person is really the only way to go. And I think with proper notice, we could make that happen. I was the one who presented, or I was one of there was a few people, it's my understanding now, that presented the Montgomery County option. And I was the one who actually emailed all of the SREC members as well as our chairman with the plan that I had for the Lone Star Convention Center. And I put that together in about 36 hours by myself. And short of, loose ends, catering and things, I pretty much had a plan ready to go. And so I'm willing to help in any way that I can. I was not selected to be on the committee, and I'm fine with that. But I have let everyone know, and I would like to also extend that here with you all today. Any way I can help, please let me know. I'm willing to, whatever I can do. But I really do feel like in person is the way to go. So I appreciate all of you.
And I appreciate
listening.
all the work you did to put together a plan. I know that is a lot of work, speaking from experience. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you guys listening to me today, even though I'm an iPhone guest. I apologize. But anything I can do to help make that happen, I'll be glad to.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Jeremy Baker, you are recognized.
Yeah, I'd like to bring a couple things to our attention. The integrity of the vote when we're in person is much clearer because people could stand up or sit down and we can see that these things have been voted on and that the votes are clearly in favor of whoever and what we're voting on. Then the other thing that I would like to bring forward is whenever we're having elections for SREC or any of these delegates or any of this stuff, being in person really does make a difference because you actually get to meet all your other delegate voters. The other thing that I was looking at is the platform that's coming out of this convention does more damage to our future elections because it disenfranchises a lot of the grassroots. In 2018, we had a lot of planks, but we had a lot of people that were satisfied with that platform. And I think that us throwing all that out really does disrespect a lot of the voters here in Texas because it does disenfranchise a lot of people that were satisfied with what we had. What we see here coming out of this 2020 is a lot of people were not able to speak and all their credentials were blocked and one person can make a difference. So I believe the in-person is really being demanded based on the fact that all the mistakes that we've seen in this convention.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mr. Baker. Jason Vaughn, you are recognized.
Hey guys, first off, thanks for all of your work. Good to see some of you on here. Sorry I didn't get to see you in person. Real quick, my thoughts are I would like to wait until after the elections. We have just, we're less than 100 days out at this point. We have so much to do. Young Republicans have a deployment almost every weekend, starting really next week. By the way, you're all welcome to join us for any of those. And but we've got so much work to do. I actually liked Mr. Lutz's opinion about maybe doing something in early January or right when session's starting to do something with our legislature. I think that could be really that could be handy. And I don't really care if we move back to the 2018 or 2020 platform. It doesn't matter to me. I gained and lost stuff in both. But the thing I would point out is to look at, instead of Austin, look at Kalahari, which is going to be opening in November. It is the world's largest indoor water park resort. It's in Williamson County. It's massive. I don't know if it could host like a normal convention, but something like this, it might be appropriate to host for us to get the rest of the work done. But it should be, and I would recommend speaking to new SREC committee man Bill Fairbrother about that. He has a lot of experience and knows the facility well. And again, it should be a great facility for us to look at least for either for this or for smaller conventions.
All right. Thank you so much, Jason. All right, Diana Richards, you are, and I know that's not your full name because I know you, but for the life of me, it's not showing. So, Diana, you are recognized. Diana?
Hi. Hi, yes, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Awesome, thank you so much. So Diana Richards, SD30, CD4. And as I've listened to everyone, talk about whether this should be in person or virtual, I really wanted to have a little more clarification on, why we pass these resolutions that become our planks. And that would be so that our representatives and senators here in Texas know how to create bills that will speak for, what their constituents want to see. So if we wait until January, when they're already in session, then how they would only have, I guess, the 2018 planks to go on, which were good planks. But I do believe that there were things that were added to the 2020 resolutions, the proposed planks, that are very important because they are things that came up over just the last 2 years. That would speak to contact tracing, that would speak to mental health clinics in our schools, that would speak to, gender reassignment, things like that, that are incredibly important. So I know that this is something that I don't feel we can put off. Whether that can be done virtually or in person, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if because of the rules that we're operating under right now, we can do satellite SD conferences to be able to say, okay, we know there are a lot of delegates that can't afford to either take the time off or for travel to go to another convention. Can we elect in our Senate districts a smaller number of delegates that would be representative of those SDs? And then we might be working towards an in-person an in-person convention that would be more like under 400 people or under 500 people.
All right, Ms. Richards, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Lillian Sockwell from SD15, you are recognized.
Okay.
Ms. Sockwell?
Hi, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
I can, thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to leave the technology, the rules, and all the exciting stuff to you guys, but I think we need to look at it from a human aspect. I need to be with my people. I am fully in favor of an in-person second convention. And honestly, we simply cannot put this off. We need to also have it somewhere constitutional friendly, no more Democrat places. Where are these Republican cities that can build us some convention centers? There is something to be said about energizing the base. And, I was recently on vacation, everybody's wearing a mask, and I was so sad not to see smiles. I want to be with you guys. I'll even hug you guys if you want me to. But we need this to propel us, to motivate us to start working for we're all going to be working for Donald Trump's re-election. But we need to go forward. We need to get this energy, this motivation. I don't know, but I feel like I need to bring people to work hard. I don't know, I'm rumbling down, but I'm nervous. But I need to see you guys in person. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, we are getting close on time. We've only got 7 more minutes. Mr. Timothy Scott, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Real quick, I firmly believe that we don't have any rule problems because the rules we are working under right now were adopted in 1972 and have been amended 39 times since then. I don't think the fact that we didn't do anything with rules at our convention means a thing. We're still operating under the same rules that were adopted in 1972. And William Lutz had a great idea, I think. If we're gonna have another convention with platform, it would be fabulous to have it in the Austin area in January. And right after we pass the platform, we could then all walk over to the Capitol and turn it into all of our representatives. So I think that would be a great idea. Thank you for your time. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Scott. All right, Terry Hall, you are recognized. Terry Hall.
Yes, hello. I'm sorry, I had to unmute myself. As you can tell, I have lots of children in the background, so I'm going to try and get somewhere.
Hey, been there, done that. Go for it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so y'all, I'm SD 24, CD 21, and I'm very in favor of an in-person convention. And timing is going to be tough. In the Austin area, as you probably know, they've been locked down through the end of the year already. So January, I kind of agree with the other gal that I think that's almost too late. Those of us who have worked the legislature, now when I say work, I mean volunteer advocate, but when we go up there, you know that all of our key bills, particularly our priority bills, should already be filed before the beginning of January. That gets done during the early filing period. So I think it might be too late to have the effect that we really want to have on the legislative session and getting our priorities passed. You don't want to be already 3 or 4 steps behind by the time the session starts. But I think also what we're seeing with numbers of cases and things like that, it seems like we're peaking and plateauing a bit on the coronavirus, and that within the next month or 2, we might see a completely different outlook than we're seeing right now. And there's plenty of huge venues around our state that can seat, you know, even 25,000 people, and we could easily social distance with the 5,000 or 6,000 delegates that we currently have selected. So I think there's a way for us to do this. We can do it smart. And at the end of the day, if we start going into December, January timeline to do this, we're going to be smack in the middle of flu season and who knows what other kind of illnesses running around. I feel like the fall might be safer and smarter because there's not going to be as many germs floating around. And it's also right back to school in the beginning of January for a lot of folks. And so that's going to affect a lot of people's ability to get somewhere for an in-person convention when it's right after your Christmas break.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Miss Susan Patrick, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. Susan Patrick, SD5. I actually served on the Rules Committee, and so I speak with that perspective. The Rules Committee was there. We were in person. My room bill can prove it. And we worked, you know, tirelessly. We had fair debate. We took testimony. When we became the permanent committee, those of us who were back on and a few new ones, we worked fairly and we took some testimony. And I would be very happy with the result. And there's a couple things that really need to be changed right now. And the most important one is in counties where someone has either been promoted and vacated a position to some office, and ones who passed away, there are holes on our ballots. And where we have no Republican running, and the only way they can replace them is they have, starting August 3rd, when there's an organizational meeting of a county EC, then they have just, in some cases, 5 days to find, to interview candidates and go through the process, elect them, and get them a replacement. So we actually have a Republican on the ballot in November. And in those cases, if they don't, there is a rule that addresses that in our rules, in our permanent rules that were passed, and that needs to be done so that they can, if you just have one or two candidates, it's not too hard. But if you have 20 or 30, 5 days is just barely sufficient. And
Time.
so, thank you.
All right, Ms. Patrick.
I'll stop. Thank you.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, we are at 2:19, which leaves less than the time allotted. So those of you who are in line, I'm so sorry, but we have reached the end of the time for our testimony. So we are going to go back into discussion for our group. And if y'all will all keep yourselves muted until you are called upon. Committee members, I hope that you are all still with me. I don't see y'all, but that doesn't mean much. So I'm going to clear all at this point, and let's bring it back to where we are. So our agenda today is to recommend a time, date, and location in order to reconvene our convention. So the chair will entertain a motion to discuss. Does someone have a motion? Amy Hedke, you are recognized.
Yes, I would like to move that we have an convention before August 24th and get this whole thing over with.
Okay, Amy, you're going to have to put something. Hang on just a second. You are breaking up so bad. I cannot hear your motion. Can you type your motion in chat?
Yeah.
I will read it for you once you do that. I don't know why you were freezing up on me. Okay. Where did she go? Somebody's typing in chat. So Amy Hedke is making a motion for an in-person convention before August 24th. Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay, hearing no second, the motion dies for lack of a second. Do we have another motion? Guys, I hate to say.
Madam Chair, this is Terry.
Okay, I'm like, guys, y'all are gonna have to speak for me. Okay, go for it, Terry.
Now, I move that we recommend that the SREC adopt the 2018 platform and rules.
Okay. Terry Holcomb moves that the SREC adopts the 2018 and 2018 rules and platform. Do I have that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
Thank you.
Is there a second? Okay, hearing none. The motion dies for lack of a second. The time for testimony has ended, so anyone that is not an actual member of this committee will not be recognized, just FYI. Mark Ramsey, I see that you have a hand up. You are recognized.
Yes, Madam Chairman. And if you could share my screen or allow me to share it.
Okay, I don't know how to.
Wait, maybe I can. Maybe I can. Hang on.
Let me see. I can only share my screen. Can you send it to me?
Yes.
In email, and maybe I can get it up on my.
I will. Hang on a second. Okay, what was your email, Neon?
Let's do the Gmail, because it's, if you're fixing to share a Google Doc, I can share it easier from that. So it's neondion91 at gmail.com.
Got it. Okay, sent. Let me introduce it pending putting up on the screen. It basically recognizes, I believe, the need for us to move on and focus on November. I believe it protects the work that was done both in person and virtual on the temporary and permanent rules and platform committees both. And I think it lets us go forward in a very quick manner. So
Mr. Ramsey, can I interrupt for just a second?
Yes, ma'am.
The only thing I'm getting from you is at 217. Is it a Word document that you want me to put up?
It is. You did not get that?
I got one at 217.
That's it. That's the same thing.
Okay, hang on.
It's got members. It's got some whereases that kind of describe what I put on there in the interest of guiding Chair West. Basically, part one, and this may not have been in what I just sent you, Dion. The more recent one did, but it's got 4 parts to it. The first part says the SREC at 12 noon Saturday, August 8th, will conduct a virtual meeting to approve without amendment the reports of the permanent rules and the permanent platform and resolutions reports. Oh, you're starting to bring it up. Oh, excellent, excellent.
Takes me a minute, but I get there.
Okay, the only thing that's missing is right after SREC. That should say at 12 noon.
Okay, so you want the SREC at 12 noon.
Correct.
On Saturday, August 8th.
Correct. Let's see, I guess for the record, and some people are on audio only, let me just read through these points and then we can perhaps discuss them. Let me start back at the first. The SREC at 12 noon on Saturday, August 8th, 2020, conduct a virtual meeting to approve, and so there's a time, date, and place, to approve without amendment the reports of the permanent rules and the permanent platform and resolutions reports, pending 60% line-by-line voting by the delegates. If necessary, the SREC will make emergency rule changes to provide for them completing the unfinished business of the convention. 2, to preserve grassroots input in the subsequent grassroots-driven work of the 2 committees, the SREC should not amend either report before approval. 3, to obtain the 60% line-by-line approval of delegates required by RPT Supplemental Rule 9D for platform planks to be included in the new 2020 to 2022 platform, RPT staff will send a SurveyMonkey style survey to delegates and alternates emails with a minimum of 3 days allowed to complete the survey. Each platform plank from the Permanent Platform and Resolutions Committee will have a separate item vote from each delegate. Sufficient identifying information will be included to allow for seating of alternates and SD identification for weighted voting purposes. And then last, part 4, the results of the SurveyMonkey voting will be ratified at the next regular SREC meeting, but announced as soon as available from staff. I move adoption.
This Terry, I'll second.
All right, sorry. There has been do I need to keep sharing the screen? I'm not sure how to get it off. Pause share. Nope, that didn't work. Trying to figure out how to get it back to Zoom.
I would actually like if you could keep it up a little bit longer.
Okay, I'm trying to. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor moved by Mr. Ramsey and seconded by Mr. Holcomb. I am having a hard time seeing now my screen to figure out who is got their hands up. There we go. Mr. Ramsey, would you like to speak to your motion?
I I don't think I need to right now. I'll reserve comments in case there's questions or something later. I think it speaks for
Okay.
itself. Yeah.
Mr. Huls, would you like to speak for or against?
I would like to speak against.
Okay.
Okay. I am totally against this motion. It disenfranchises the entire convention. The debate on the floor is important for folks to hear the points being made by others for specific amendments to the planks there or against. To not have these debates out aired in an open public forum so that individual delegates can make up their minds whether to be in favor of an amendment or against an amendment to an existing plank is primarily why many people go to these conventions. Most of these planks are good planks, I'll give them that. But sometimes they do get, you have been there many times. It is important that the delegates get to hear the input from other delegates and make a decision on whether to support or not support an amendment to the platform report. This seems to be a rubber stamp that I would not care to see be done under our name in our convention. My opinion, my understanding is that Chairman West would like to see an in-person convention. This would remove the necessity for an in-person convention as far as I can see. So with that said, I totally, completely, and unequivocally stand against this motion. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Newton, you are recognized.
Hi, I'm speaking for the motion and in support of the motion. The delegates and our voters are completely disenfranchised. I will give you that, but they're also very frustrated that they've had so much of their time wasted on the last convention. I don't think they're going to want to come back into either an in-person or a virtual convention. You're going to have your hardcores that actually will. I respect the work of both of the committees tremendously, even though I don't agree with part of our party plank. I'm always going to vote for it. Our delegates are always going to vote for it. So I feel like we're wasting a lot of time. Personally, I'm working on my congressman's campaign right now, and I don't have time for this. And I would prefer, and I trust the SREC to do their job, to get this through and get this through quickly, get this through efficiently. And if you give the delegates 3 days to look through the platform, they should be smart enough to read it themselves, come up with conclusions, and just vote for it or not vote for it. I think this is the most efficient way to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Point of order.
Who just called the point of order?
Amy Hedke.
Hey, Amy, what's your point?
Why do we have a motion to allow the SREC to violate convention rules on the floor?
This is no more than we are to advise or to make a recommendation to the chair. Mr. Parliamentarian, Mr. Hayes, could you please speak to this?
Not clear on Ms. Hedke's point of order.
Amy, can you restate?
And be specific which paragraph and line you're speaking.
We're looking at a motion that basically tells the SREC to violate the convention rules. This is a convention body, not an SREC decision. And we were not given direction to advise the chair to turn over control of the convention to the SREC, but how to allow the convention to finish the work of its business.
Okay, I understand your point. Could you take some other discussion? Let me do a little research on this and I'll come back.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Virgil Cruz, Mr. Cruz, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm offering, I would like to offer an amendment in the form of a substitute. It's very short and, well, not very short, but I'm going to put it in just in the chat box here.
Okay.
About to hit send. Did you want me to read it, Madam Chair?
Yes, if you would please read it. I'm still, okay.
So we recommend that the state chairman and the state Republican Executive Committee reconvene the 2020 Republican Party of Texas Convention in person if possible at a spacious venue and at a time following the November 3rd, 2020 election to consider the reports of both the Permanent Committee on Rules and the Permanent Committee on Platform and Resolutions.
I'll second. Terry.
Terry seconds. All right. So discussion is open for Vergel's amendment. Mr. Cruz, would you like to speak to your amendment, your motion?
Yes, I would. I think there's a lot of opinions, and I think a lot of people have valuable things, and the opinion of all the delegates is very important here. I think one of the things that may unite many of us is a desire to still do an in-person if possible. And we know things are moving quickly, and that's maybe not possible right now in an easy way, but I think it may be at some point. Certainly the current situation can't last forever. If we can't do it in person, you know, we'll go back to virtual, but I think a lot of people still would like in person. A second concern that has been raised by several is wanting to do it after the election. I think every day matters. We have to get our Republicans elected. And I know that spending 2 days on a convention takes time away from what we could be doing to help our candidates get elected. So in terms of moving the platform forward, we have to get people elected to do so. And I think there's wisdom in holding after November, even though perhaps there's also wisdom in wanting to get things done. So my motion is a little bit vague. I know that I haven't specified a particular date. I think as November approaches and after we focus on what we've got to focus on for November, people can add the specifics. The state chairman and the SRAC can add the specifics. But my motion is intended to reflect a desire to have an in-person if possible, and also to wait until after November. So those are the main points of my motion, and I kept the details to the state chairman and the SRAC. Thank you.
Okay, may I ask a point of information, Mr. Cruz? So when you say at a location that is spacious, I assume that you are implying that you would like one location not distributed. Is that correct?
That would be my preference, but I guess the substitute is amendable if people wanted to.
We're already on. Okay, so we have Mr. Cruz has spoken to his motion. I'm lowering his hand. Rhonda Lacy, you are recognized. Miss Lacy. Rhonda.
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman. My hand needs, I know, couldn't unmute. And my hand needs to come down. I was going to actually be speaking to the first motion and not the amendment.
All right, I will leave your hand up to speak to Marks if it comes back to that. So, Mr. Holcomb, you are speaking in favor or against?
In favor, Madam Chair.
All right.
So I see both sides of both this arguments, and I actually would be okay with either direction here. I think everyone in general understands that an in-person is the most desirable outcome. I don't necessarily have all the information I need as far as fundraising goes, locations. I know there's a lot of work looking at Fort Worth, I believe, which is Republican. And I think you could do this event in one day and maybe the evening before. I am concerned about quorum at this point. I would really like a parliamentarian to weigh in on what that would need to be in order to conduct business at that late date and what happens if we don't achieve quorum. But I think everyone ultimately has always desired an in-person in undesirable circumstances. So I'm going to support Vergel's motion just because I believe it's morally and ethically right for the delegates to have this opportunity. If we can't do it and this committee decides we just can't do it, then I will certainly support Mark's option as well, because that is going to be the most representative thing of what the grassroots was actually able to do, which was not very much considering the big turd sandwich we all had to eat.
There you go, Terry. Richard, could you please speak, Richard Hayes, could you please speak to quorum? Quorum was established since we did not adjourn sine die. I'm assuming that this is a reconvening of the current convention that we are, can you speak to quorum?
Well, I believe it is a reconvening. The delegates who were previously selected would be the delegates still eligible for the reconvening. The Credentials Committee, as you'll recall, will issue a report at the beginning of each general session so we know how many are registered. The quorum is a majority of the registered delegates. If it's done in person or virtual, the quorum would need to be determined to be sure that business could be conducted. The whole definition of quorum is the minimum number of people required to conduct business. So if we didn't have a quorum, you couldn't conduct business. If we did, then the meeting could proceed.
So a follow-up question, Mr. Hayes. If I remember correctly, on Sunday, the report that was given was that we had 7,200 and some odd. If Summer Wise is still on this call, maybe she might be able to speak to that. But it was like 7,000 some odd. So we are looking at having a necessary quorum of over 3,500 people in person. Is that correct?
That's the math. I don't recall it being quite that high. I thought it was 6,000 something, but I don't have my notes for that. But whatever it was is what it is. Whenever we reconvene, we'll get another credentials report, and that will dictate what the quorum will be at that time.
Okay, thank you so much. Karen Newton, you are recognized.
Hi, I'd like to speak against Vergel's motion respectfully. Holding an in-person convention is going to be so expensive. It's a logistical nightmare at this point. I'm so social. I missed convention. We're missing our RNC convention. We all would love to do it in person. We understand we need that interaction with each other. We need that discussion. But at this point, we're talking about rules and platform. Let's just get this done and move on so we can work in November. If we have a convention that we're planning in January, that's hanging over your head. I do events. I know how to do events, and finding a place in Texas right now for 3,500 people with the possibility that COVID's going to shut it down. I mean, it's going to weigh on you, and it's going to distract from getting our congressman reelected, right? So personally, I'm thinking our chairman wants to just move over quickly, get this over with, vote on the stuff, get it done. However we can do that, let's do it. Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay, Amy, I can guess how we're voting which side. Sorry, I'm still trying to get, there we go. Amy, I don't know what is going on with you, but you sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Rah. So
still really bad.
There we go. Nope.
Madam Chairman, may I suggest that she log out and log back in, and maybe that will improve the connection.
Do you mind trying that? Okay, I'll come back to you.
Video off. Turn the video off.
Okay, Amy, turn the video off. Try that first. Turn your video. Okay, try talking now.
Is that better?
Oh,
Is that better
yes.
now?
Good
Yay.
job, Terry.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, I am adamantly opposed to the SRC having any control of this. That's basically railroading the delegates. I would rather see an online convention than turn it over to the SRC members. We had a delegate meeting this morning in the county, and of all the different ideas that they all had and what they wanted to see, their one unifying message was, we want the delegates to decide and debate this stuff. We do not want the SREC to do this. So that's the one overriding issue. Whether this is all ratified online or in distributed, locations or in one big location, those are all, as far as I'm concerned, acceptable recommendations of this committee. But to flat out turn this over to the SREC is just unconscionable at this point. This is a party of debate in the grassroots and listening to people. And if somebody doesn't have time to mess with that, they shouldn't be on this committee.
Okay, I have a point of information from Ms. Glover.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I would just like some clarification, and maybe Mark can provide this rule-wise. If the SREC is really able to do what you're proposing, can you clarify what our rules would say about us being the ones to approve the convention reports?
Yeah, well, that's part of why I worded mine. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. That's part of why. Is that okay, Madam Chairman?
Yes, I'm sorry. You are recognized to answer the question.
Sorry. That's why I put in that first one that the SREC would pass any necessary rules. I'm not 100% certain it would be required, but the SREC exists. Its very job is to act when the convention is not in session, when it can't act itself. It's to take the place of the convention and to execute what the convention said to do. If we need rule changes to make that happen in this particular COVID-tainted 2020, I think that the SREC would be able to pass that as emergency rule, time limited, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't see that as an issue if they did not pass the rules and the parliamentarian were to rule that they needed to in order to act, then that would in fact take you back to, as I understand it, the 2018 platform and rules. The rules I actually haven't had the chance to study. It's been a pretty hectic week. The 2018 platform, I've not studied, but I've talked to a lot of people about it, including Mark DeRazio, who chaired it. And there's been a lot of changes between 2018 and 2020 on the platform side. And some may argue that they lost their particular plank or they gained a plank that they didn't like. I mean, that always happens, having been on the platform committee before. That's not really what we're arguing. It's are we going to uphold the will of the people? And by the SREC simply going forward and having people vote on it with this Survey Monkey mechanism, which was the original intent of the convention this year anyway, I think it's a very good compromise that lets both the delegate input continue, albeit a slightly abbreviated fashion, as it would have in an 8,000 person in-person convention, and to those that say, to Amy's comment that we're ripping this out of the hands of the grassroots and that the SREC is telling us how to do it, that's exactly what we're not doing when we say in Rule 2 and in parts of 1 of what I moved that we're not allowing the SREC to amend that report. We're specifically going with what the grassroots permanent committee did. And frankly, to suggest anything otherwise is agenda driven, and it's you know, potentially a small group of people that want to hijack either the rules or the platform or both. Does that answer it, Jill? I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the wording of the rule change would be, but I'm very confident that the SREC could make that very limited rule change to take care of unfinished business of the convention, and then maybe even rescind it before the next convention. I mean,
yeah. Okay. Are you good? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Holcomb, you have a point of information?
I do, Madam Chair. I'm assuming with Vergel's amendment, we will be able to consider 2 minority reports that I'm aware of. I'm aware of 2. And so with Vergel's amendment, we would be able to consider those. And with Mark's motion, they would not be considered. And therefore, that's a major problem with our convention process and rules. Is that correct?
I don't have an answer to that. Mr. Parliamentarian, do you have an answer to that? Or maybe I let Vergel or Mark speak to that?
Well, let me opine for just a moment.
Okay.
Back to Ms. Hedke's point of order. Her point of order initially was, would it be out of order to recommend to the chairman that the SREC conduct a meeting to approve the rules on the platform. That would not be out of order, just that recommendation. The next question though is, if that were adopted by the chairman, would that be out of order? That is, once he implemented the recommendation. Well, I probably need to read this a little more carefully. This is generally covered, I think, by 2 rules that I can find. The first is Rule 1, and the second is Rule 33. The first premise I would give you, that if we do not adopt new rules or new platform, then we retain the 2018 rules and platform. So I'll start with that position. Okay, what rule, seems to me the language in Rule 1 that is important is rules, the general rule is may be changed only by action of a state convention. That's the rule under 1B. As with all parliamentary law, we have a general rule, exceptions to the rule, exception to the exception. So we read down a little bit further, and we have an escape clause there for temporary and emergency changes. And it reads, the SREC in its best judgment by a 2/3 vote of those present voting may prescribe such temporary and emergency changes to these rules so as to permit the orderly conduct of the affairs of the Republican Party. So the question then is, what constitutes an emergency here that would justify that happening? So let me jump over then to the later rule I talked about, Rule 33. This is under subsection E, and I believe this was the section that was used by the previous SREC to determine that there would be a virtual meeting. It says, in the event that the facility is not available for the state convention and the general counsel of the SREC declares that there is no reasonably viable legal remedy, a state convention may be conducted through the use of electronic meeting services chosen by the officials committee. So now we get to, do we have an emergency? It would more likely than not be deemed that COVID situation is an emergency. So depending upon how quickly we moved, if we did it immediately, there would be emergency. Maybe by the time we get to, if it was after November, it may not be, maybe January it would not be. It's going to determine on the circumstances at the time, it seems to me. My gut check is, and I won't say I'm going to follow my sword on this, but my gut check on looking at this for a few minutes is that the SREC could do that so long as we are in the agreement that it is an emergency. We know that we had a total breakdown of the technology and of the credentialing process, and now the backs are against the wall. So if we're going to conclude the convention quickly, more likely than not, that would qualify as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. All right, going back to Mr. Holcomb's point of information, Mark, can you address Terry? Terry, can you restate your point of information? And Mark, can you please respond?
Yeah, my point of information was, I understand that we'll be able to deal with the 2 minority reports that I know are out there with Vergel's amendment. Under Mark's amendment, they can't even be considered, and I'm pretty confident that's going to be in direct violation of our convention rules. But I'm a little
is that a point? Is that a question, or I mean,
it is. I'm not trying to be difficult. It is a question.
I'd be glad to address that, Madam Chair.
Go for it, Mr. Ramsey.
Yeah, the intent with all this, with all of the SurveyMonkey style polling is to let the delegates decide. I would accept as either an amendment or simply the understanding without amendment that minority reports could be included in this SurveyMonkey style vote, and I don't see any particular conflict there. my intent was not to exclude minority reports from this vote, if you will. So point well taken. When we were trying to, you know, hammer this thing out right before the meeting today, frankly, I didn't think of that. And I was not aware of minority reports, but I would gladly include those in this particular motion going forward.
Okay. Rhonda, you've been trying to get my attention without a hand raised. So, do you have something do you have a point of information or a point of order?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I know we're concerned about the platform committee and those delegates getting to weigh in. Did not our platform committee hear all live testimony from all delegates who chose to come before that platform before they ended? From my understanding, they did. And that way it would have given our delegates the chance.
Okay, I will speak to that just because I spoke to Mr. DeRazio yesterday, this morning. I don't even remember anymore. But he did say that he felt like they had ample testimony before the committee, both on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as well as in front of the permanent committee. Mr. Cruz, could you speak to the rules? Do you feel like you had enough testimony?
You can always take more, but I feel like at this point our committee voted to adjourn and to send the report to the floor. So I don't know that it even belongs to the permanent committee on rules anymore.
Okay. Okay. So seeing no more, wait a minute. I think I have a point of information from Ms. Hedke. Where'd you go, Amy? There you are.
Stopping video and unmuting.
Yes.
I'd like to appeal the decision of the chair.
Okay, what decision did I make? Hang on, what decision did I make?
Did you make a decision about whether this was in order?
Oh, okay, so you're calling on your point of order. Okay, I didn't officially, but I will, based on the advice given by the parliamentarian, rule that your point is not taken, and I understand that you are wanting to appeal the decision, appeal from the decision of the chair. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have an appeal from the decision of the chair. Mr. Hayes, could you please advise whether that is a debatable motion?
It requires a second and is debatable.
Okay. Is there a second to appeal from the ruling of the chair that this motion is in order? Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion dies for lack of a second. Okay. Let me see, where were we? Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up here. Dale Huls, you have your hand raised.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this, and I had my hand up and I pulled it back down so I could hear more. But it appears to me that this committee seems to be rushing to an outcome to avoid an in-person convention. That is my perception of what's going on. Okay. We sat here and listened to testimony from 21 people who found out about this meeting, which I don't think was easy. It wasn't widely disseminated, but 21 people out of all the folks who came to get on this one came and testified. 16 of them wanted an in-person convention. 4 of them wanted an online virtual convention. 1 of them wanted a hybrid convention. So that is a pretty way it looks like at least the people who came here are looking at different things. You know, we talk about, you know, doing the will of the people. Well, we don't really know what the will of the people is. It is every delegate's right to stand on the floor of the convention and propose an amendment to the platform before it is voted on by the convention to approve it for our platform. And if we go directly to the SREC without having a mechanism to put those amendments and have those debates, we are taking away their we're disenfranchising their rights on how to do this. We talked about the SREC has the duty to act for the convention if the convention cannot act. But if we're going to say that we're not going to have a convention, then of course they'll get to act. To me, that seems like you've rigged the game. Just because COVID exists doesn't mean that's an emergency for the RPT. We're here to try to decide what is the best course of actions or a prudent course of action on how to get things done. That doesn't mean because COVID exists, it precludes the ability to convene a convention, whether we do it in one central place, whether we break up the convention into separate locations separately and then work that together in some hybrid motion. That's another way. Do it regionally amongst the major population centers. I'm not here to give that direct recommendation yet today. But the fact that those things exist and could be done doesn't preclude the convention from coming together. If we rush this and we push this down the convention delegates' throats on this thing, then I guarantee you there will be a blowback across the state of Texas that we're going to be responsible for and saying we didn't think that we could get a convention together, whether it's in August, whether it's in December, whether it's in October. We've not decided that. We're not going to make that decision. What we're going to do is we should be able to give our best recommendations. And I think the first recommendation is we should decide, are we going to have an in-person convention or are we going to have an online convention? Or are we going to have a hybrid? From what I hear from Mr. Ramsey, he wants to do a fourth way, which is to delegate the convention to the SREC. I'm not in favor of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Reed, you've had your hand up for quite a while. Thank you for your patience. You are recognized.
Yeah, thank you. You know, every convention, people don't get to debate things because of time limits. I think, and I'm speaking in favor of Mr. Ramsey's proposal.
Okay,
It's balanced.
hang on, Mark, hang on just 1 second, because we were on Vergel's proposal, which is that we recommend that the state chairman, he moved to substitute. So we recommend that the state chairman and the state Republican Executive Committee reconvene the 2020 Republican Party of Texas convention in person, if possible, at a spacious venue and a time following the November 3rd election to consider the reports of both the permanent committee on rules and permanent.
I'm sorry. I'll shut up until we get back to this. If we get
okay,
back to
well,
it.
I'm going to take that as a speaking against Vergel's. Do you have a position? Okay, so Amy, I see a point of information again. Did I have that right?
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute.
Breaking up
You're breaking up, but let's try it. Keep going.
Okay. Can we clarify that the convention did not establish this committee under an emergency situation?
Mr. Parliamentarian, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that. Were we established under an emergency situation? I would tend to say we were.
I would say we were, because that's why we were having a virtual convention. There had been a declaration, whether we agree with it or not, that an in-person convention could not be held, and that created the emergency circumstance that confronted the RPT on such short notice.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian. Amy, do you still wish to speak?
Yeah, actually, because the motion itself does not ask that this be postponed because of an emergency.
Okay, so are you speaking against Vergel's motion that asked for, let me go back and find it, sorry.
No, I'm asking a point of information about the creation of this committee. This committee was not created because of an emergency situation. If this motion had not passed, we would still be in the middle of a virtual convention.
Which, okay, so from my point of view, I'm just going to take a moment of personal privilege. This would not have passed if we were not trying to get to SD conventions and get the rest of the business done. So that kind of seems like an emergency to me. This is unprecedented. I put in a point of order saying that the committee was out of order, but that's just me. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but we can go forward and let's get somewhere on this. Mr. Holcomb, you have your hand raised. You're recognized.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to speak to my colleague, Mr. Dale Huls' point just for a minute. First of all, to insinuate that this committee is rushing to anything is absolutely absurd. We have two motions on the floor that we're working through diligently and everyone is talking about, and we're trying to weigh the options. So, you know, just from a decorum perspective going forward, I would encourage the chair to kind of watch that a little bit. You know, we have members on this committee that want to go in person. To suggest anything otherwise and to suggest this committee's rushing to anything, I just don't agree with that point. We need to, matter of fact, I'm going to call the question on Vergel's motion.
Oh. May I respond to that since he called me out directly?
No.
May I respond?
Not normally. This is not a debate as far as that goes. He was just responding to your, Mr. Parliamentarian, am I correct on that?
It's not a debate. You have a motion on the floor. It would require a second and a 2/3 vote to close debate.
Okay. Do we have a second on the move to call the question?
Second.
We have a move to call the question. It is a 2/3, which out of 10 is, somebody do the math for me, is what? 7? I believe. We need a vote of 7. So all in favor. Mark Ramsey, I know that you have a hand up and you cannot, so you're going to have to just tell me. All in favor of closing debate on the on Vergel's move to substitute, please raise your hand. I guess if I don't vote, okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Come on, Karen.
Let's
I did.
see.
Yes. What on this?
So I'm only seeing 2. Mark, what is your position?
No, not yet.
No. Okay. So we have 3 against that I can see. Oh, I can see it. We have 6-2. So and 1 something. I have 1. I don't know what that is. I only have 8 people voting out of 10, 9 people. So we have 4-6. The motion fails. Motion to close debate fails. Okay, Mr. Ramsey, you are, I'm going to clear all. Mr. Ramsey, you had, I put your hand back up because immediately after I clear all. So I've cleared all. Mark Ramsey, please put your hand back up. And you are recognized to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, members. I was going to wait and speak later, but the way this motion is structured by Mr. Cruz, it's kind of now or never. So I'm opposing Mr. Cruz's motion very respectfully, of course. I too, like almost everybody on the call, probably most on the committee, strongly favor an in-person committee. I've always done that. I was helping the leadership team trying to fight Mayor Turner. We need to keep in mind this was caused by Mayor Turner shutting our convention down instead of fighting each other in this circular firing squad. I would remind the committee members that even our national convention is now being shut down, essentially the same kind of circumstances we faced here in Houston. Everybody wants these conventions to go on, but more importantly, we want to win in November. There's been questions raised about if we did something in November or December or January or later, whether we would even get a quorum. I would submit, and again, very respectfully, that Mr. Cruz's motion does not satisfy what we're supposed to do. It is vague, as Mr. Cruz said. It does not specify the time, date, or place that, and that's primarily what we're supposed to be doing here. I would submit that if we do this, even in November, that by itself is going to take some people, some activists, some party staff away from the November election effort. You can't just sign a contract, as Dion knows, and everybody show up a week later in a suitable convention center. It's not that simple, especially when you're looking at very large efforts. So we would be hurting ourselves in November to accept this substitute. Beyond that, if we had it in November, we're bumping up against Thanksgiving. If we didn't have it in November, we're bumping up against Christmas. If we waited to have it in January, like one or two of the testifiers said, then we're bumping up into legislative session. And by then, we've actually expended a quarter of the SREC term that we've just recently elected without a platform or rules. And I submit that that is a far greater problem than simply dealing with the problem in an efficient way that we could do before us. Our parliamentarian, Mr. Hayes, has said that this is an emergency situation. We clearly can ask the SREC, if needed, to change rules to make this happen. It is the very job of the SREC to carry on the party business when the convention is not in session. If we don't have that situation right now, I don't know that we ever could make a case in the future that we would have that situation. If we adopt this substitute, frankly, that's going to extend the uncertainty. You're going to have people that like the 2020 permanent reports. They're going to love it. They're going to keep track of it. You're going to have the people that don't like it. They're going to be trying to get up support for knocking it down in November, December, January. Again, that's diversion from what we really should be doing, which is fighting Democrats instead of these infightings. The minority report, we haven't addressed that in the special amendment. We certainly can. Several of y'all said that, y'all have heard from people that want to have it in person. I get that, but I've also heard from at least as many, if not more, of my constituents that it's like, this is a COVID year. We just have to go forward and make the best of what was not a very good situation. In terms of the disenfranchisement argument, the disenfranchisement was caused by the Democrats shutting down our in-person original convention. By going forward and directing the SREC to not amend things and to go with what the grassroots said through this committee work, which these other committees, mine was the same way. We had enormous amounts of very passionate testimony from the grassroots, both in person and virtual. Not every group got what they wanted in every committee. That's just part of the way the convention process is. 2020 is not perfect. I'm not saying my plan is perfect. What I am saying is my proposal gets this behind us in the fastest possible way, honoring the grassroots intent, and lets Chairman West get on the business about winning elections in November. It gets rid of the chaos. It gets rid of the contention. It gets rid of the continued debate. And for the good of the party, I really ask that you vote no on Mr. Cruz's amendment and vote yes on mine with amendment as needed for the minority reports.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Ms. Hedke, you would like to speak in favor of Vergel Cruz's amendment.
Yes, I would. Well, I don't really want to because I don't like the November timeline, but I'm going to anyway, because as much as disenfranchisement is tried to be blamed on the Democrats, they are not the ones in charge of running this convention, and they are not the ones in charge of deciding how our delegates attend our convention. That's our job. And this committee was not created in an emergency situation. The emergency situation that started the whole convention was lack of a space to meet. That was the only emergency that prompted the SRC to act. They don't have an emergency that they are addressing to take the rest of this business away from the convention. And if we do this, we are the ones who are disenfranchising, literally disenfranchising the delegates' ability and rights to speak and debate on these actions. So I don't like Vergel's substitute. I don't like doing this after November, because we all know that after November, things don't slow down, but this needs to be finished. The delegates need to be given their right to finish their business, and this is their business. It's not the SREC's business. It's their work, and they need the right to speak to it and get it done. And it might be inconvenient to do it now, but I think it's going to be even more inconvenient the longer we put this off. So I'm going to urge this committee to do what the convention charged us to do and give them a date to finish their work, and to vote against Mark's thing.
Okay. She's speaking for the substitute motion that is currently on the floor. Mr. Huls, you have your hand raised.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to speak against this, even though I am for an in-person convention. I do think it is rather vague, and I don't think that these motions are well thought out, and that I do not believe that they respect the intent of this committee to come up with a solid recommendations. You know, as Mr. Ramsey said, we are apparently looking to put this behind us the fastest possible way. That to me seems like rushing. As an absurd remark as it is, it does seem like we are moving the ball. We're trying to get the ball off our court. You know, apparently, you know, the work seems to be maybe awful hard. I never thought that we would get this done in a single meeting, but apparently other folks do. Again, I would say I would be against this motion, even though it's well intended. I do not think it is strong enough. And I also will be opposing the first motion that Mr. Ramsey did. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huls. All right, do we have any further discussion? Is there any further discussion from the members of the committee? All right, are you ready to vote? We are voting on Vergel's substituted motion. Let me go back and read it one more time so everybody's on the same page. Give me a second. We recommend that the state chairman and the state Republican Executive Committee reconvene the 2020 Republican Party of Texas Convention in person, if possible, at a spacious venue and at a time following the November 3rd, 2020 election, to consider the reports of both the Permanent Committee on Rules and the Permanent Committee on Platform and Resolutions. Are you ready for the vote? All right. All those in favor of this, please press the green yes button. All opposed. Wait a minute, let me clear all. Hang on, I still got stuff on there. Okay, all in favor of this, please press the green yes button. All opposed, the no. All right. We've got somebody voting that is not, because we've got 11 people and I didn't vote. So somebody has voted that is not. Let me look down through here. Mark Reed, Rhonda Lacy, Terry Holcomb. Why do I have an extra person on here?
Marga's iPhone.
Where is it? Okay. There is somebody voting that is not supposed to, and I'm having a hard time finding it. Okay.
It's Marga's iPhone.
Okay.
So it's in the M's. But at the top, you have your ACOTs.
Okay, hang on. Let me get all the way down, I guess. And they're okay. It's taken. It's yep. They're taking it off. The motion fails 6-3.
Madam Chair, point of order.
Mr. Holcomb, state your point.
And we're going to need clarification on this. Rule 1B, adoption. These rules, with the exception of permanent state executive committee rules required or authorized by state law, may be changed only by action of the state convention. Such action reflecting a majority of votes cast by delegates present and voting. When any change is made, a certified copy of the changes shall be filed with the Secretary of State no later than 30 days following their adoption. And Rule 34D, platform and resolutions. This committee shall recommend the convention, the platforms, and resolutions. We seem to be circumventing those two rules under Mark's resolution.
Mr. Parliamentarian, can you please speak to that point of order?
I think this is the same point of order or similar to Ms. Hedke's. And as we said, we have the general rule that we found there in B, but then we have the exception to the rule found in Rule 1C. And I'll read 1C again. It says by 2/3 vote of those present and voting, if there is in it, if the SREC in its best judgment by 2/3 vote of those present voting may prescribe such temporary and emergency changes to these rules so as to permit the orderly conduct of the affairs of the Republican Party of Texas. So the fact question is there an emergency? And I'm sure some people will say there are and some are not. My gut check is, as I told you before, more likely than not there would be, since an in-person convention was shut down. The SREC chose a virtual convention. The virtual convention was a total failure in credentialing and in voting. So that's my gut check. Like I said, I'm sure there are those that will be on either side of the issue.
Point of order.
State your point, Mr. Holcomb.
We don't have a vote by the SREC of 2/3 that we're an emergency anything. No vote has such vote has taken place.
I think the point would be the recommendation would go to the chairman, and then the chairman would make a call. That's why I said originally, Mr. Holcomb, that the motion was not out of order. The question would become, was it out of order for him to implement it? Maybe he'll implement it, maybe he won't.
I do have a point of order, ma'am.
Okay, just 1 second. Let Mr. Hayes finish answering the first point of order, and then I will rule on that and we can get to yours, okay? Give me 1 second.
This committee is an advisory committee that will make a recommendation. The chairman is not bound to follow your recommendation. So I don't believe the motion is out of order. And then as to the whether or not, if the chairman did that, would that be in violation of the rules? It would appear that more likely than not, the greater weight of thought would be, we find ourselves in an emergency circumstance. That's why we had to go to the virtual convention in the first place. We continue under the COVID crisis, and we continue to have a inability to use or the ability to gain all credentials. I heard before there was 1,000 people that still haven't acquired their credentials, and the voting software that was hopefully to be used for whatever reason couldn't consistently perform. Thank you.
Okay, so I do not find your point of order sustained.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Hedke, your point of order.
I'm going to object to the fact that of people saying that this entire convention was a failure, because if that's the case, then we have electors who are not legitimate. And this parliamentarian just declared that our entire convention was crap and ready to be challenged in court.
I believe that there has been no dispute over the CD caucuses where our electors were elected, and those are safe and secure.
Failure.
Understood. Understood. But that is not a point of order. That is a statement, I think. Y'all are just really testing me today, guys. I'm like, so I am going to say that our point is not well taken. Mr. Ramsey.
Yeah, just a quick point of information. There are other rules that govern how we actually declare an emergency or not. Those I'm a member of. And in fact, there have been several different emergency rule changes made since then by that prior term SREC that were of the 2/3 vote that were specifically directed.
I see that you would like to be recognized.
I have a motion.
Okay, Mr.
Motion to amend.
Okay, motion to amend.
And Mark, you can help me with the language on this. I want to amend to include the minority reports as part of the Survey Monkey with the greatest vote number, greatest amounts of the one that gets the votes. The minority report or the main report.
Minority report to be included on the Survey Monkey plank by plank voting by the delegates. Is that correct?
And there's going to be 2 minority reports, yes. One on rules, one on platform.
Okay, I'm going to put minority reports.
Thank you.
Okay. In fact, I'll just put 2. I just don't want to limit it if there were more than that, correct? But I do know that the committees did adjourn sine die on Thursday night. So I think, no, it wasn't on Thursday night. What day did they do that? Mark told me. I forgot. Mark DeRazio. Okay, Monday. So include the 2 minority reports to be included.
How about if you just leave it plural and not limit it to 2?
Okay, I took the 2 out. Include minority reports to be included in the Survey Monkey, plank by plank voting. I wish I could let Vergel have access to my document so he could put it up and do something.
Madam Chair, could you just type it in the chat?
Yeah. To everyone or to you?
To everyone, preferably.
Okay. All right, here it comes.
I'll speak to the motion.
Okay, just 1 second. Let me get it in here. Motion to amend to include the minority reports to be included in the Survey Monkey plank by plank voting of the delegates. So basically, if I'm reading correctly, I don't know what I just did, but let's get that off.
I don't have that information.
Siri's trying to talk to me, sorry. So if I'm understanding your motion correctly, so Mark's motion is that even if the SREC did this, it still had to be ratified by 60% by the delegates voting, correct? And you want to make sure that the minority reports are included in that for them to choose. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, of the
Madam Chair.
Delegates. Yes.
Madam Chair, I don't know if it helps with the wording, but Josh Flynn just advised me that there were, in fact, only 2 minority reports that were properly filed. One on rules and one on platform. So that helps with the wording, Annie. Yeah, thanks.
Well, I put it in there. So the motion to amend is to include the minority reports to be included in the Survey Monkey plank by plank voting of the delegates. You know what? I need to amend that, which ratifies. Foot. Did I get it? Okay, hang on. Of the delegates.
To ratify, maybe, Madam Chair?
Which ratify? What?
To ratify, or which would ratify? Or
which
in order
would
to ratify?
Which is necessary to ratify the actions of the SREC? Terry?
I would not say it's needed to. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm just trying to figure out what your intent is to get a wording
my
up.
intent is for the body to make the decision on the minority reports. That's my intent.
Okay, which is
Madam Chairman, I'm not clear where this amendment is going in. Remember, it had 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, give me a second. So when he says to obtain the 60% line by line approval of the delegates required by RPT Supplemental Rule 9B for platform planks to be included in the new 2020-22 platform, RPT staff will send a SurveyMonkey style to delegates and alternates email with a minimum of 3 days to complete each survey. Each platform plank from the permanent platform and resolutions committee will have a separate item vote from each delegate. To include minority reports to be included in the SurveyMonkey plank, but well, I guess that's kind of redundant.
Right, that's where it would go though. Logically, I think is right after the sentence that ends with delegate.
Yes, that's what I see.
Okay, good.
And I'll put the wording. Let's see. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this.
Madam Chair, this is Vergil.
Yes, Vergil.
I just wanted to clarify because typically the rules wouldn't be voted on the SurveyMonkey. Will this include the minority report in a special line for that report?
I would say that it would have to.
Thank you.
Based on, so when we send out the SurveyMonkey, we will have something on the rules to have the minority, the rule that was recommended by the Rules Committee and a minority report, and they can vote on either or, would be my recommendation or my understanding of the intent of Terry's motion.
Thank you.
Terry?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay. All righty then. Terry, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes. First I want to just acknowledge that, this is a difficult situation for any of us. I don't know that there's a good way, a right way, or a wrong way. I don't think anybody's got ill intent on any of this. We're just all trying to do the best we can in a very bad situation. So I appreciate all my committee members' positions and opinions on this. I am going to support both this amendment and Mark's motion. It's not a good situation, but this amendment does cover us in allowing the body to make the decision on the rules at the end of the day. And to not allow them the opportunity to speak on the 2 minority reports would be a huge, huge mistake, I think. And the chair, Chairman West is looking for recommendations. I think this is a really, really good recommendation for him to consider, to allow the body to decide between the minority report and the submitted report. And it's not that hard, right? It doesn't cost anything and the body can speak on it. Thank you.
Okay, hang on. Mark Ramsey, would you like to speak on this amendment?
Yes, I do. And I just want to support Mr. Holcomb's amendment and thank him for helping work through this difficult situation.
Thank you. Okay, hang on. Stand at ease for just a few seconds while I try and get this in here where I can share the screen so everybody knows what we are voting on. So please give me a second. I'm trying. To include the minority reports to be included in the SurveyMonkey plank by plank voting of the delegates, as well as the minority committee. Okay, I have to do it that way. I'm going to just highlight it so that y'all see what we're trying to do. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, can y'all see it? Okay, everybody can see it. All right. Is there any more discussion on Terry Mokel? Terry, I'm tired and my mouth doesn't work anymore. On Terry Holcomb's motion to amend, it would now say, each platform plank from the Permanent Platform and Resolutions Committee will have a separate item vote from each delegate to include the minority reports to be included in the SurveyMonkey plank by plank voting of the delegates, as well as a minority report from the Rules Committee.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
If I understood the earlier discussion, there was also going to be there was going to be a vote by vote on each rule change also. So the SurveyMonkey would not only be for the rules, but for the platform?
It would be, okay, so our platform, our rules currently require a 60% threshold for platform, but not for rules. On this motion, it is only for the platform to be voted on plank by plank, but in this case, there is a minority report for the rules that is being asked to be put in the SurveyMonkey on a separate line item to make sure that not only what the recommendation of the committee is, but that the recommendation of the minority report is, and allow people to choose and it be a 60% threshold. Mr. Holcomb, do I have that correct?
You have that correct, and the rules themselves would just be, the SRC would adopt them and it would be done, other than the minority report.
Yes. Please tell me you're not going to tell me that there is a, okay, while you were trying to figure this out. All right. Amy, because you've spoken so much, I will come back to you next, but let's let somebody who hasn't spoken much have a chance. Ms. Glover, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I am looking at this motion and I really appreciate the desire to accommodate various viewpoints and get this done, but I am going to have to speak against it. I'm looking at a couple of things. First of all, Saturday, August 8th, that's 2 weeks. As much trouble as we had with email addresses that, to my knowledge, still have not been resolved for many of our delegates, I'm concerned about that. First of all, timing in getting information and getting some bad data corrected on our delegates. Second of all, I'm looking at the phrase virtual meeting, and we have just had such bad experience, frankly, with virtual meetings that it just concerns me to do business that is this serious regarding our rules and our platform committee report, which I served on platform committee, and I agree with those who said that we worked really hard and we came up with a great platform. So I am inclined to vote against this again, just because of the timing and it, by virtue of it being virtual again. Thank you.
Point of information.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Holcomb.
I'm sorry, I was confused what was just being debated.
I think it was your.
There's no virtual meeting here. I don't know what we were debating here.
Okay, I think she might have been confused. She was saying virtual, but she's talking about the SREC virtual meeting. I think that there's just a semantics there. I mean, I think there's not a y'all are talking about the same thing, but it's going this way. So she is talking. She's nodding her head. So she is talking about the SREC is virtual. We're not meeting in person.
Yes,
so,
correct.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Holcomb?
That's fine.
I know we are. Yeah, we are. So, Ms. Hedke, your turn. I recognize you.
Hey, thank you. I'm still against pretty much everything at this point because this does not meet our charge to advise the chairman on a new location, date, and time for a new convention. And I'm going to keep driving that home because that was just a wrong ruling, flat out. And I will also add that one of the things we learned in this last voting problem was that CD caucus chairs and SD caucus chairs were not given direction on how to proceed if one method of voting broke down. They had no approved method to conduct legitimate votes. And you might want to consider changing this to adding not just SurveyMonkey, but any other option in case we find out that SurveyMonkey is funding BLM too and delegates revolt. So you might want to include a broad backup plan for this.
Okay, I appreciate that. And point is well taken. I understand. All right, is there any other discussion on Mr. Holcomb's, Mr. Ramsey? I can't hear you, Mr. Ramsey. Mr. Ramsey.
How about now? How about
yes,
now?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, I just wanted to respond to a couple of things. We've taken a lot of time here. I think we're almost at a solution. I'm going to be voting both in favor of Mr. Holcomb's amendment and the main motion, assuming the amendment passes. To Ms. Glover's point about the emails, we do have good emails for the vast majority of delegates. The problem was in the credentialing layer of the software. It was not in the emails. The emails themselves are good. The way SurveyMonkey operates is if we have the correct emails, it will work. To Ms. Headkey being against almost everything at this point, I think that's a pretty close quote. The language specifically allows other style survey instruments. That was very intentional. It says a SurveyMonkey style survey to delegates. That said, I have used SurveyMonkey extensively, as have many of you. It was used in our committee for voting purposes. It was used by the platform committee statewide in 2018. It is a very robust platform. It has been tested by the commercial market for well over a decade at this point. I don't anticipate problems with it. RPT has an account, has for 2 or 3 years, but the language permits alternative platforms should we have a problem there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairwoman.
Give me a second here. Sorry, my computer is dying. I'm frantically trying to get it plugged in. So give me just 1 second. I didn't have a plug-in where I was. Okay. Mr. Ramsey, I'm going to lower your hand. So I'm just going to clear all. It's easier. Okay. Is there any other discussion on Mr. Holcomb's motion? All right, are we ready for the vote? Everyone clear on what we are voting on? This would be to amend Mark's motion to include the minority reports to be included in the SurveyMonkey plank by plank. I can get it where I can see it. Voting of the delegates as well as the minority report from the Rules Committee. Okay. Everyone in favor, please signify by the green yes button. Everybody against, please with the no button. Voting begins now. And the motion passes 8-1, 9-1. Somebody again is voting that is not, but that is, we've got people trying to vote. So there's only 10 people on this committee. That means that there is 8 in favor and 1 against. All right, so the motion on, I'm going to clear all. Mr. Holcomb, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just a point of information. Would this be an appropriate time to make an amendment if folks wanted to have an in-person SREC to do this versus a virtual? Because I don't personally care.
Okay, you would have to change the, well, you might not have to change the date if they could get one going. Yes, it would be an appropriate time to have an in-person SREC meeting. Where would you like to put that? Hang on just 1 second. Can y'all stand at ease for just 2 seconds while I go get my notepad that I had to move rooms for?
And I would yield to Ms. Glover on for this.
You would yield to who? I'm sorry, Terry, who would you yield to?
Jill Glover.
Okay, Ms. Glover, if y'all can stand at ease for 2 minutes and let me go get my notepad, I would appreciate it. I'll
Hey, when is the next SREC meeting scheduled for, guys, while she's waiting?
Terry, the one in September is the 18th, I believe. It's the Saturday after the weekend of 9/11. But we
Is that going to be in person?
Yes, as far as I know, it's in person. Yes.
Why not just do it there?
You know,
it's a recommendation. I'll go with whatever you decide.
Okay, wait a minute. When did you say that was, Jill?
I'm thinking it's the 18th of September.
Oh, yes.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is the 18th of September. We're supposed to be in Austin. So the amendment would be on Saturday, September 18th, during the regularly scheduled SREC. Is that what you wanted to do an amendment for, Jill or Terry?
I have something else I would like to amend in regards.
Let's take one at a time. Is it?
So moved.
I
moved that amendment. I just moved the amendment to move it to the in-person September the 18th SREC meeting.
Okay, give me a second. Let me get it where I can. Stand at ease while I get it on here. So we are looking at the SREC.
Point of information.
Yes.
When is the August meeting of the SREC, Ms. Glover?
That has not been set yet. Okay, I'm looking for a way to, give me a second here. Paragraph. All right, for whatever reason, it's not letting me track changes. So I'm struggling a little bit here. I'm just gonna put it in highlight. Let's see, the SREC at its September or first quarterly meeting on September, let's see, it's first quarterly. I could spell, guys, sorry. Meeting on September 18th. In Austin. I don't know if you want to put that. I'm going to cut this.
Yeah, and I recommend you take out in Austin since the rules allow for virtual meetings if it had to be.
Okay.
I have maybe a friendly amendment to the amendment, perhaps, if not considered friendly.
Okay, let me finish this one first and let's get a second on this. So the SREC at its first quarterly meeting on September 18th, 2020, conduct a meeting hang on. I'm gonna take out virtual. A meeting to approve without amendment the reports of the permanent. Does that accurately reflect your intent, Mr. Holcomb?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to put it in highlight. And this needs to be taken out. All right.
Madam Chairwoman, I believe the Saturday in September is the 19th rather than the 18th.
Okay.
Friday is the 18th.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. Okay. I'm struggling. It is trying to change me here. 19th, 2020. Okay. All right. Let me get back to the participants. Maybe, possibly. It's not letting me. There we go. All right. Ms. Hetke, you would like to speak to this? Are you there?
I am. I wanted to move to amend.
Okay, first of all, hang on just 1 second. Did we have a second to Terry's motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a second, and if we do another amendment, I think that's allowed. That's an amendment to an amendment. So that would be 3D. You would have the main motion. We have an amendment, your amendment, because the other one is already passed. And we
I wanted to amend something different, so I'll wait.
Okay. So we have a second. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Joe Glover, you're recognized. I can't hear you. Whoa.
There we go.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure if this is a proper place to say it, but I also wanted to amend in regard to email, something, clarification on the emails. Is this a proper time to do that or not?
No.
Okay.
That is not, that is outside of the scope of this amendment. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we'll come back.
Thank
you. Mr. Ramsey.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to offer an amendment to the amendment in the form of a substitute. And that would be that we go back to the original time and place that was there, but where it said conduct a virtual meeting, amend that to be conduct a virtual or in-person meeting.
So you want 12 o'clock on noon on Saturday, August 8th.
Correct. Leave all that the same. Leave all that the same, and change it to virtual or in-person meeting.
Okay, hang on just a second. We have a point of order on that requested amendment. Mr. State your point. State your point.
My point of that motion is not in order. He can vote to vote this down and then make another amendment, but that does not fit in this motion.
Mr. Parliamentarian Richard Hayes is marked. You're muted. There you go.
That amendment would not be in order at this time. The amendment deals with striking really August the 8th and inserting the first quarterly meeting of August 19th. So we're talking about the date. It did. So at this point, that would not be in order. But as soon as this amendment is processed, whether it passes or fails, the amendment would be in order.
Okay. All right. Mark, do you have any further things that you would like to say?
Just that I will be voting against this. I think this ties the hands of our new chair with a vote by a committee that arguably is not even constituted in a fashion that comports with the rules in the first place. I don't think that's the message we should be sending to the new chair. I think we should give the new chair and the SREC maximum flexibility. I just think overall, we want to get this taken care of as soon as possible. And if this fails and we go back to my proposed language, that will give even more flexibility and let them proceed. And I would remind the members that we are only making a recommendation here. We are not writing legislation, so to speak. We are not writing the rule for the SREC or a script for the new chair to follow. We're making recommendations. And I think the recommendation should be that we take care of this as fast as we possibly can. This would push it back considerably. So I'll be voting against this.
Okay, Mr. Cruz. Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Mr. Cruz?
Yeah, I have a minor point. I know 2020 has been very disorienting for people, but I think it is still the third quarterly meeting. even though it's the new SRAC's first one.
It's the first, okay, I assumed that it was the first quarterly meeting. Mr. Hayes, can you speak to that? I thought the first.
And kill the apostrophe too, please.
Sorry. Yes.
I think it's commonly known as the first quarterly meeting. You just completed your organizational meeting.
Yes, that's what I thought.
First quarterly meeting of the new SREC. However, it is the third quarter of the year, so, but I think it's generally known as the first quarterly meeting.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. I was remembering something different from my from tradition, but I think either way is fine.
Okay. Ms. Heckey.
Yes, I am speaking for this amendment, even though it is still completely out of scope of the charge of this committee, because when the SREC does that, I think they need to be ready to look the delegates who show up at this meeting in the eye as they take this job away from the convention. And even though this is just an advice to the chair, he's welcome to do a virtual if he wants, but our recommendation should be pretty specific and hold some accountability into it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Heckey. Mr. Holcomb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to my motion. I don't believe that the body has even been constituted yet. You know, we need to do this at the first quarterly meeting so the new SREC can do what, even if it gets to them again. I know, Mark, this is a recommendation. I can't believe this is a controversial amendment, but I just think it's very simple. It's very clean. You'll have a new constituted SREC. They'll be able to do their business. Please support this. We're getting into the minutia now.
Okay, is there any other discussion on the amendment? All right, hearing none, are you ready for the question? We're voting on Terry Holcomb's amendment to include at its first quarterly meeting on September 19th, 2020, or to conduct a meeting two. All in favor? Give me a second. Let me clear all. All right, now voting is open. If you are in favor, please click the green yes button. All opposed, click the no button. We've only got 6 votes. Okay, it is 5-3. Rhonda is not able to speak, and I'm not sure, haven't received a text as to her thing, but the motion passes. Okay. I cleared all. It was 5-3. Just FYI, Virgil, in case you didn't see it. All right, just give me a second to clean this up. Okay. I'm taking out a space as well. All right. There's also a typo. Sorry. That drives me nuts. All right. Are there any? Okay. We are back to the main motion. Mark's motion as amended. Is there any discussion on the main motion? Terry Holcomb, you have your hand up. You were recognized.
Madam Chair, I call the question on the motion.
Okay. We have a call the question. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Is that debatable, Mr. Parliamentarian? Mr. Hayes?
I'm getting there. No.
It
Limiting debate, changing the rules of debate, or ending debate are not debatable motions.
And it is
the purpose.
It is a 2/3, and we are now at 9 people. So 2/3 would be 6. It will require 6 votes to end debate and call the question. Are you ready for the vote? Let me make sure that it is cleared. All right. All in favor, please say, click the yes button. All opposed, please say no. We only have 6 people voting so far, when I think we have 8 on here. The motion fails. It's 4-4. Okay, so we are still open for discussion. So we're on the main motion as amended. Amy Hedke.
I would like to move to amend this motion to include either a paragraph by the signers of the minority report or let them address the SREC and make sure that their context for the minority report is included in anything that the body sees.
Okay. Let me see where we would put that. Give me 1 second.
And I'm okay with y'all wordsmithing that.
Send it out in the email. Send it
All
out
right, so
with the email.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Terry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I would recommend putting it with the email. So wherever the email language is, that's where you would put that.
Give me a second. Quarterly meeting. Can somebody help me here? Survey, sufficient identifying information, the results of the survey. It doesn't, we don't have an email thing on here.
So just right there at the end of 3, included in the email of notice with the Survey Monkey, we will include the description of the minority report and the
Okay, hang on. Included in the
email notification.
Email notification. Okay.
With Survey Monkey or whatever.
Notification. Yeah. Okay. Included in the email notification on. I'll just put on the survey or on the voting platform.
We will include paragraphs.
Will include paragraphs
describing the minority reports along with.
Can we add from the signers of the minority report?
Describing the, will include paragraphs from
the
signers of the signers of the minority report.
And the Rules Committee Chair.
And rules.
Rules/platform, excuse me.
Committee. Oh, okay, rules. Sorry. /platform.
Committee chairs.
Committee chairs. Describing the minority reports. How's that? Amy, are you good
the
with
minority
that?
Reports with the proposed language out of committee.
How about as well as the proposed language from the committee? How's that? Okay, let me read it.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, ma'am, sir.
Yeah, Rule 24 says the committee members signing the minority report shall designate the member to present the minority report to the convention, and the convention chairman shall permit the member to present the minority report to the convention. So the point there would be, the way this is written, it sounds like any member of that committee could send in a paragraph.
Okay, so included in the email notification on the voting platform.
Ma'am?
Yes.
So I guess we're going to finally start to follow a rule. I'll go ahead and say that according to that rule, we'll just do what it says.
Okay, according to Rule 24, according to, is that right, Richard? Rule 24?
Or pursuant to more.
Okay. Pursuant to Rule 24.
I didn't know we were following rules.
I know, right? Hang on.
How about in the email notification on the voting platform include a paragraph from the committee member, the minority committee member
designated.
Yeah, the member designated to present the minority report. In theory, that's already been done.
Okay. Pursuant to Rule 24, the email notification on the voting platform shall include I lost the paragraph. A paragraph, sorry. Paragraph from the person designated to present the minority report, as well as C, as well as the proposed language from the committee. Does that work? Obviously can't spell.
I think it's clear. I don't think it works for the charge of this committee, but I think your language is clear.
That helps. Okay. There we go. All right. So the motion is to include, pursuant to Rule 24, an email notification, or in the email notification on the voting platform shall include, no, the email notification. I still can't get this right, guys. The email notification on the voting platform shall include a paragraph from the person designated to present the minority report, as well as the proposed language from the committee. Does that work? Okay. Now I have a ton of hands up. So, Ms. Headkey, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm just going to say that the more power we take away from this body to adequately debate their work, then the more opportunities you need to give them if we're going to shove this stuff down their throats. And I'm still opposed to this particular action.
Noted. Okay. All right. Joe Glover.
Yes, I have a point of information if Ms. Wise is still on the call regarding the email notification. I am curious about the emails that were used in the Credentials Committee report, if those emails were the ones that were sent in from each Senate district, or if those emails were ones used by, that the RPT has when people registered as delegates, and if those lists were cross-checked. Because I still have quite a few delegates who did not receive emails, and I'm concerned that if we do a Survey Monkey, that all of our credentialed delegates get emails.
I am seeing Summer is actually on the phone call. Ms. Wise, can you speak to that? Do you know?
I just actually walked into the room as Jill was asking her question. I think I caught all of it. So the Credentials Committee was actually kept out of all of the process of distributing credentials. We were only involved in the process to verify that delegates were qualified to receive credentials. So I don't have information on where RPT obtained the email addresses, or how they were verified as valid or not. The person who would have that information, well, RPT would have that information.
Kyle Watley is saying that he can speak to this. Mr. Watley, if you could please unmute yourself and address the committee. Kyle?
No, I'm here. Hold on. I'm trying to, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, okay. Very good. So yeah, the emails that we were using were the ones that were provided to us by the SD and county conventions. So that was the initial form of communication. A lot of people were complaining that were not receiving our emails. And in some cases it was yahoo.net or, some sort of a typo, and we were trying to catch those as we saw them. The vast majority of them we were discovering had unsubscribed from our emails. And so thus our system was purposely not sending them. So we switched to putting them into a like a mail, I think it was MailChimp or some other such service like that. The issue that we were having there is that because that was sending emails that looked like emails that come from our normal system, the internet service providers and the mail services were flagging it as some sort of a spam because they immediately recognized that although they looked like our emails, they were not coming from our normal service. So, my suggestion, I'm certainly able to have a conversation with our email provider about how we can get people to subscribe back in and, basically unsubscribe themselves to receive our emails, to be able to get all that, because the system we are currently using is the most reliable one. But if somebody is unsubscribed, then by law, we're not allowed to keep sending them emails. So I can certainly get with them to try to find a way to allow people to resubscribe themselves to our service.
Okay, thank you. And just FYI, guys, I moved pursuant to Rule 44 to help make it a little bit easier to read. Okay, Jill, did that answer your question?
It did. I'm still a little bit stumped on how we can resolve some of the email difficulties. And I'll just give you an example. When I signed up for convention, I used my email address for my husband and I. And so that caused issues in the internal system. Had I known that so much was going to be happening by email, I would have put in his initially along with mine. So it's those little things that I think have proved to be a hurdle that we had no idea about when convention processes first started back prior to COVID. So
I completely understand. Okay, point of information by Amy Hedke. Amy?
Yes. To underscore Mark's statement earlier, can we please get clarification that we don't have the right to limit whatever the SREC does, including amending these reports?
I don't understand the question. I'm so sorry, Amy.
This point of information, does this committee have the ability to limit the SREC's amending of any reports that they take up?
We are simply making a recommendation to the chairman on what we think needs to happen. This would be a motion moving forward.
They can still choose to amend these reports.
Depending, I think, on these, subject to the limits that would be put in the rules or the charge to the SREC. So, Richard, can you please speak to that?
I thought I understood Amy's question, but then you spoke, and now I am confused. Could the point of order be stated more succinctly?
Hers is a point of information. She wants to know if we do all of this, can the SREC ignore it and do what they want anyway and amend? That is my understanding.
Can the SREC amend the reports out of convention? That's the question.
Yes. Sorry, if I did not state well, sorry.
My gut check is yes.
Okay. Okay. Vergel, Mr. Cruz, you're recognized.
Oh, my apologies. I forgot to take my hand down. Mr. Hayes got my question about 2 seconds after I was thinking about it. So
okay.
I'll take it down.
Okay. Ms. Newton, you are recognized.
Hi, thank you. I just want to be clear in my understanding that we're making a recommendation to the chairman. Chairman West has, in what my understanding in his email to all of us was, can we please get this done? Can we please get this done quickly and efficiently? And Chairman West can change all this. So I think we're starting to put in too much language. We're starting to talk too much. And can we just vote on this? Looks good to me. And we're giving him a recommendation. And to clarify, I do care about the scope of the charge. I care very much about this. I want to make this right, but we're making a recommendation to him.
Do I take that as a motion to call the question on this amendment?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to call the question. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? I'm not seeing a second. One more chance. All right, motion to call the question dies for lack of a second. Okay, Ms. Hedke.
I would just like to include, after all the email stuff, a physical mailing to delegates of the link with the survey be included with this advice.
Okay, where is that? Okay, that is out of scope, I think, for this, but we can put it in on something else. Where
we had delegates getting their access codes emailed to them at a .com address. That's not the fault of the delegates.
Right.
And those delegates
in addition, okay, so I will do this in just a minute. Is there any more discussion on this particular amendment? Are you ready for the vote on this amendment? Okay, if you are in favor of this amendment to the main motion, please check the yes button. If no, please check no. And it passes 8-0. And I believe Rhonda Lacy is voting yes. Wait, one just went down. There it is. Okay, now to Miss Hedke's second motion, you would like, you want it mailed out as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, mail. The survey shall be sent to the address on file with data center?
Sure. I'd say survey link.
Okay, the survey link shall be sent.
Madam Chair, may I interrupt? Virgil Cruz?
Yes.
Why don't we just send it to the address on the permanent roll?
Sent to the address, okay. On the permanent roll.
I'll second.
Second. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Okay, wait a minute. I think I forgot something on Amy's motion. Was there something else that you wanted to add to that, Amy?
Oh, there's a lot I want to add, but I think.
Oh, I'm sure there is. Okay. Okay, all right, that's great. The survey link shall be sent to the address on the permanent roll. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I see Mr. Ramsey's hand.
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, I am strongly against this. Ms. Hedke doesn't understand how SurveyMonkey works. She's already demonstrated that. If we simply send out a postcard with a survey link, we have absolutely ruined the integrity of voting plank by plank. That's not the way SurveyMonkey operates. This would cost, not including staff time and just time, this would cost somewhere on the order of an additional $5,000 just in postage and printing. I'm not sure what the mechanism would be to give unique codes that would be visible by anybody that happened to see the postcard. And last, if you sent out a unique code, that would make it difficult to prevent people from voting twice, even if nobody else got a hold of the code, because you'd be sending the code both to email and to a snail mail address. I'm strongly against this. At this point, I suggest one of our members is just trying to gum up the works, and I would like to call the question all the way back to the original motion.
Okay, so you are moving the previous question?
Just call it all the way back.
He's moving on all pending motions.
Okie doke. So this would be on both. How do you?
Point of order.
Okay, Mr. Holcomb.
I don't think Mark wants to do what he just said because this motion is on the table.
It is, and it would, a one vote would put all of these, it would put the very thing you just spoke against, Mark. Do you understand that?
No, ma'am. What it would do was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, but what it would do is it would take a vote on this amendment, which would go against voter integrity. And if that failed, then the next vote would be whatever next is on the floor, which I believe is the main motion.
That is correct.
He is correct.
Okay. All right, so we have had is this a 2/3 vote to call this all the way back, Richard? You're muted. It
Yes.
is. Okay, so do we have a second to call it all the way back? Is there a second to call it all the way back? Last chance.
Second. Sorry.
Mark
Okay.
Reed,
Terry Holcomb second. So we are voting on first the survey link. Let me read it. I've got too many things open.
Madam Chair, you're first voting to call the question. So whether or not we're going to end debate, be 2/3 vote, and then you'll go to the amendment and then to the main motion.
All right. If you would like to call the question, please vote yes, the green button. If not, please vote no. It is, I'm voting yes. So that is 5-4. That is not 2/3. Okay. All right. Is there any further debate on this particular amendment? The survey link shall be sent to the address on the permanent roll. All right, seeing none, are you ready for the vote? Okay, if you are in favor of this, please vote yes. Only members. Please vote now.
I don't think you cleared it last time, Deanna.
Okay, I'm clearing it. And the vote will begin in 3, 2, wait, guys. 3, 2, 1. Yes or no? All right. It is 5-3. The motion fails. I will take that out. All right. We are back to the main motion. Is there any debate on the main motion? Are you ready for the question? The main motion as amended, we are going to vote in 3, 2, 1. Yes, is as amended. No, it is not.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Could you scroll up so I can see that again? Please?
Scroll up where?
Too far.
So the main motion, so I can, okay. So we're voting on this whole thing.
Yes.
And Madam Chair, we've got a text message that Rhonda Lacy is voting affirmative on the final as amended motion.
Okay. So at that point, that makes it 5-2, which is 7-8. We are missing somebody.
Madam Chair.
Oh, it's 5-3. There's 3, no, 2 against. Yes.
I would ask that with objection be put after my name.
Okay. All right. Without objection, I'm going to put with objection. There you go. Okay. I am showing 3 against, 6-4. The motion passes.
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
Okay. Given the fact that we have completed the work that we were asked to by the chairman, there has been a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor? Please click the green yes button. I've only got 5. Okay. We've only got 5 people voting. 6, 7. All right. It is 5-2 to adjourn. Guys, thank you so much for all of the work hanging in there with us. Thank you to all the participants who have watched this and gave testimony. Thank you so much. And we will give a report to Chairman West, and I will see you later. Thanks.
Where will this be available for us to download?
I am not sure. I have to get it ready first.
Okay.
And I will check with staff. I am sure that they will be able to speak to that better. but I am sure that they will put something out. My guess is that it's going to be on the website, but that's all it is a guess. Sorry.
Yeah.
I will try and get information out as I have it, or I will put it, I'll get it to Amy. I know she can get it to people. So thank y'all.
Meetings on YouTube, so.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks. Talk to y'all later.
Done.
Where'd it go? How do I leave the meeting?
Why the hell we even have a convention if we could just let the SREC decide on the platform?
The chair doesn't follow his recommendation at all. It's ridiculous. Absolutely out of line. The body needs to be involved, period. Devolving that down to the SREC is ridiculous. In any way, shape, or form. What a valiant effort, though. Very proud of Amy, though. Sticking up for what she believes in, regardless of what everybody wants to label her. Just because you don't seek to understand anything.
So then the email with the SurveyMonkey link will go out sometime like mid-September or early September. Give people 3 days to fill it out. And the survey results will be tabulated and go to the SREC for their September 19th meeting.
Seems that way.
Okay, well, then there just needs to be an educational, some education. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
Ben. Maybe some personal involvement, I guess, would be in order. No, we ain't got nothing but time.
But it seems to me that the charge of this committee was to come up, if I remember the Ricker motion from Sunday, it was to come up with a date and place to continue the convention business.
That is correct.
I don't think we came up with a date or a place. We came up with an email with SurveyMonkey.
That is true.
And anybody who does not have an email address, they're shut out of the process.
Yeah, and like I said in my testimony, we need to get the people who collected this information more involved to collect correct information if we want any chance of this succeeding at all. But again, like you said, sir, this is not what the body, the 52% of people elected this committee to do in the first place. So they can